Chapter 828 was not from his race. Wang Xian hated being used by others. Cooperation was cooperation. There was no need to get involved in other things. If both parties were sincere, he would help the other party even if the other party did not ask for his help. However, the cooperation was not completely confirmed yet. To ask for his help was asking for too much. Furthermore, because of the puppet immortal sect, Wang Xian was extremely unhappy with the Western divine realm. Hee. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, the immortals from the four great immortal sects heaved a sigh of relief. They looked at Wang Xian gratefully before turning to the five elders from the Nine Snakes Association. A cold smile appeared on their faces. Garden of Eden, this is a matter of the East. It's best for the Western divine realm not to interfere. The elder from the Berserk Beast Immortal sect stared coldly at the Ochre Angel as he spoke. What do you mean by meddling in your affairs? The Nine Snakes Association is an ally of the Garden of Eden. If you want to destroy them, we will naturally take action. Ochre said with an embarrassed expression. Huaxia Immortal sect, don't think that we Nine Snakes will be afraid of you. A superior immortal. Our invincible lord is also a superior immortal. We are not afraid of you. Seeing that Wang Xian was ignoring the Garden of Eden, the frail elder growled in a low voice with an embarrassed expression. Hee, let us give it a try. Today, we are only here to warn you. Choose to live or choose to die. This time, the four immortal sects are here. Next time, it might not be just the four immortal sects. The elder from the Wild Beast Immortal sect stared at them without any fear. His gaze swept across the gods in the Garden of Eden. It is best for your Garden of Eden not to interfere. The four immortal sects are not afraid of your divine realm. Not afraid? Then are we afraid of you? The Ochre Angel lightly patted the table and looked at the thin and frail elder. Tell your excellency, with all the powers of the Nine Snakes Association and our Garden of Eden, are you afraid of the four immortal sects? The Ochre Angel, even if we don't include you, we are not afraid of them at all. HMPH, our excellency will not submit to any power. Our excellency is the strongest existence in the world. The thin and frail old man's eyes were filled with a fiery glow as he shouted coldly. Is your lord an octahedron? When Wang Xian heard their words, he could not help but ask with a smile. That's right. The omnipotent octahedron god, the god with endless lifespan and wisdom, the strongest existence in the world. The thin and frail old man looked at Wang Xian and swept his gaze across Wang Xian with pride. The eight-limbed god of a superior immortal is indeed very strong, Wang Xian said faintly. HMPH, of course. The thin and frail elder snorted coldly and said with pride. Dragon King, since you know that the Nine Snakes Association is very strong, you might as well form an alliance with us. The cooperation between us can continue. The Ochre Angel looked at Wang Xian and said with a solemn face. No, I don't trust you guys now. That's why I won't cooperate with you guys. Wang Xian shook his head and said with a smile on his face. The faces of the gods in the Garden of Eden changed. A cold expression appeared on his face. Since we won't cooperate, our Garden of Eden doesn't care about it at all. Do you really think that we want to cooperate with the Dragon Palace? If you guys didn't come looking for us back then, we wouldn't have cooperated with you guys. Now, Dragon King, you are really interesting. Wang Xian smiled. He stood up slowly and said, if we can cooperate, we will cooperate. If we can't cooperate, we won't cooperate. Don't think too highly of yourselves. This is a matter of mutual benefit. Moreover, I don't believe in the credibility of your divine realm. Dragon King, don't make so many excuses if you don't want to cooperate. Upon hearing Wang Xian's last sentence, an icy look appeared in the eyes of the Ochre Angel as she spoke coldly. That's right. Do you really think that the Garden of Eden is begging to cooperate with you? Do you really think that you are someone? In the eyes of the divine realm, you, Dragon King, are nothing more than this. The god of flowers, who was beside him, spoke coldly. Upon hearing her words, A hint of coldness appeared in Wang Xian's eyes as he stared coldly at the god of flowers. What's wrong, Dragon King? Don't tell me you still want to make a move. The flower god stared at Wang Xian fearlessly. The gods in the Garden of Eden stared at him fearlessly. Your dragon palace's strength is only similar to our Garden of Eden. If we add in our allies, the ancient Greek divine realm and the Nine Snakes Association, we wouldn't be afraid of your dragon palace at all. Are you guys on good terms with the ancient Greek divine realm? Wang Xian's eyes sparkled when he heard their words. All right, we don't have any time to chat with you guys today. Today, the divine realm of the Garden of Eden will tell you Chinese gods that the Nine Snakes Association is our ally. If you guys dare to make a move, consider the consequences. The Angel of Okra stood up and swept his gaze across Wang Xian and the people from the four great immortal sections. His tone was filled with a strong warning. The puppet immortal sect is my friend. Just as Osiare's angel finished her sentence, Wang Xian suddenly said something out of the blue. Why? Could it be that the Dragon King still wants to avenge the people from the puppet immortal sect? Osiare stared at Wang Xian and said with a cold smile. Although we are not close friends, we have a good relationship. We will investigate it thoroughly. If it was intentional killing, we will consider avenging them. Wang Xian said faintly. Then, Dragon King, you might not have the ability to do so. Osiare's angel said with a cold smile. There is something fishy about the killing of two immortals from the puppet immortal sect. The Grand Elder of the Xian Yuan clan is even planning to investigate this matter. The elder from the Wild Beast immortal sect said from the side. So what if they are dead? So what if they are found out? Okra said coldly. That's right. He's already dead. So what if he's found out? Wang Xian sighed slightly. Let's collect some interest first. Clang, clang. As he finished speaking, Ao Jian and another immortal god from the Golden Swordfish clan beside him drew their long swords. Their bodies were instantly filled with killing intent. Huh. All the immortal sects in the hall were slightly stunned. Their faces were filled with astonishment. The immortal gods in the Garden of Eden were also filled with astonishment. They stared at Ao Jian and the other two people beside Wang Xian in disbelief. Even the 10 immortal gods and the core disciples of the Wild Beast immortal sect were filled with astonishment. The two immortal gods from the puppet immortal sect can be considered my friends. Wang Xian walked slowly to the center of the hall. They were killed by the gods of the ancient Greek divine realm. Regardless of the reason, just kill them. However, I'm still a little unhappy. This makes my thoughts a little illogical. You guys have a better relationship with the ancient Greek divine realm. Coincidentally, the puppet immortal sect and the ancient Greek divine realm were killed because of business cooperation. We didn't have a good agreement because of business cooperation and business matters. In that case, I'll kill all of you to make me feel better. Chapter 829. Kill them. Stunned. Shocked. Everyone in the room was shocked when they heard what Wang Xian said. What the Dragon King said was too overbearing. The ancient Greek divine realm has a good relationship with you guys. I am not happy that my friend, the celestial god of the puppet immortal sect, was killed. Since our business is not doing well, I will use you guys to make up for the unhappiness in my heart. Wang Xian's way of doing things was completely the same as the ancient Greek celestial realm. Two celestial gods from the puppet immortal sect were killed. The ancient Greek celestial realm directly said that the puppet immortal sect didn't keep their word and was pushing their luck. Now, I will also kill all the gods in the Garden of Eden celestial realm. It can also be said that you guys didn't keep your word. This overbearing way of doing things shocked the four great celestial sections. At the same time, they also felt very good. Damn it! You can kill the people of our Huaxia immortal sect, but why can't we kill you? Anyway, it was a kind of nihility. Although this method was very comfortable, among all the immortal sects in Huaxia, none of them dared to do this because every divine realm was stronger than the immortal sections. If the immortal sects didn't join forces, they wouldn't be able to contend with the divine realm. But now, the Dragon King dared to do it. This made them feel a sense of relief. The disciples of the four immortal sects stared at Wang Xian with admiration. Some of the female disciples wanted to marry him. When the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden heard Wang Xian's words, their faces instantly turned cold. When they saw Aojian and Aojian, who were full of killing intent, behind Wang Xian, they looked embarrassed. Dragon King, do you mean to kill us? The eyes of the Angel of Ochre sparkled as she said coldly, do you really think you can kill us with just the 2 of you? That's more than enough. Wang Xian turned his body to the side and released a terrifying pressure instantly. The power of a superior immortal instantly filled the entire room as traces of killing intent brewed in the air. The faces of the gods in the Garden of Eden changed slightly. Each of them held the divine staffs in their hands tightly and pointed them at Wang Xian. Dragon King, do you want to be enemies with the Garden of Eden? So what if we are enemies? You guys are too annoying. Wang Xian said coldly. Stop it, Dragon King. This is the territory of the 9 Snakes Association. Don't be impudent in our territory. The expressions of the 5 elders changed instantly. They stood up immediately and stood beside the gods in the Garden of Eden. They stared at Wang Xian with an embarrassed expression. This is my territory, Wang Xian said to the elder indifferently. Your territory? Hee. Our Lord Bachi is not afraid of you, Dragon King. The elder said with a sinister look in his eyes. Then call Bachi over. Otherwise, I will make my move. Wang Xian smirked at the 5 elders of the 9 Snakes Association and said with a mocking look in his eyes. He spat out 3 Dragon Balls which contained a terrifying power. The 3 Dragon Balls were suspended in the air and could launch a terrifying attack at any time. Dragon King, if you dare to make your move, the Garden of Eden will not let you off. Sensing the power of the 3 Dragon Balls, the faces of the gods in the Garden of Eden changed slightly as they spoke with a solemn expression. Crack, crack. At this moment, a cracking sound was heard. The thin elder of the 9 Snakes Association was holding a cracked snake head in his hand. Dragon King, you forced me to do this. Our great god of 8 orbs doesn't have a good temper. If you anger him, even if you are the Dragon King, you will have to pay a heavy price. The thin elder said coldly. Why did you call me? At this moment, a slightly impatient voice came from underground. Ochre's angel was slightly delighted, and a light flashed in his eyes. He immediately shouted, Lord Bachi, we are the gods of the Garden of Eden. We hope to cooperate with the 9 Snakes Association to deal with some fellows who are courting death. Lord Bachi, someone is disrespecting the 9 Snakes Association and wants to kill us and all the guests of the Garden of Eden. The thin and weak elder hurriedly shouted. Superior Immortal, there really is a superior immortal in the 9 Snakes Association. Hiss, it can't be. A small force actually has a superior immortal. The sudden appearance of the voice startled everyone from the 4 great immortal sections. Even the 10 immortal gods frowned. They had heard of Bachi from the 9 Snakes Association, but they had always treated him as a mythical creature. If these mythical creatures really existed, then to the 4 great immortal sects, they were also a very powerful existence. After all, they were powerful upper-level immortals. Crack, crack, crack. A crack appeared on the ground, and a long hand stretched out from the ground. With a gentle wave of its white and slender arm, a hole appeared. A head appeared. The head was somewhat slender, and its face was extremely pale. It had a pair of extremely cold eyes. However, what was even more shocking was that after the head appeared, a second, third, and fourth head appeared. Everyone around had shocked expressions on their faces. They stared at the 9 heads with solemn expressions. The monster gave off a cold and gloomy expression. 9 heads and 9 arms. It gave off an extremely sinister feeling. Great God Bachi, it's him. He wants to kill us, and he also wants to kill our distinguished guests in the Garden of Eden. The skinny elder quickly laid his body on the ground and spoke to Bachi as though he was in awe of God. The other 4 elders were also lying on the ground. Their respect was as though they were slaves. He wants to kill all of you and him. When the Bachi serpent came out, a few of the 9 heads had already spotted Wang Xian. However, he did not greet him immediately. As an extremely intelligent 8-headed snake, he knew what was best for him. Yes, Lord 8-headed snake. We are currently cooperating with the 9-headed snake society. This Dragon King actually wants to destroy us. Please help us, Lord. In the future, the Garden of Eden will definitely reward you handsomely. When Okra saw the 8-headed snake appear, he glanced at Wang Xian with a smile on his face. Then, he cupped his hands and said, "Is that so?" Octavia slowly nodded his head. His 9 heads stared at the Octavia angel. Suddenly, the 9 heads opened their mouths at the same time, and their terrifying tongues swept towards the Octavia angel. The Octavia angel was instantly stunned. His pupils dilated, and a look of terror appeared in his eyes. However, Octavia was a high god after all. His strength was definitely not something a god could withstand. Lord Bachi, are you trying to? The 9 terrifying tongues became 7 or 8 meters long, wrapping around Okra's body. A dense amount of light energy surged from his body as he roared loudly, wanting to break free. Lord Bachi, the faces of the other Garden of Eden gods changed dramatically, and the divine staffs in their hands began to emit terrifying power. Kiki, a bunch of bastards who want to die. The 8-limbed serpent's 9 arms were like venomous snakes, directly growing longer. The serpent heads instantly bit onto the bodies of the Garden of Eden gods. In less than a second, the bodies of the gods turned pitch black. The terrifying poison caused the lower gods to instantly lose all their offensive power. The Dragon King said that he wants to kill you all, so let's kill you all. Chapter 830, /down. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Within the entire room, terrifying arms began to wrap around the gods of the Garden of Eden. The arms were like snakes, easily wrapping around the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden. The 8 gods seemed powerful, but to the 8 gods, they were nothing. A high god, especially a powerful high god like the 8 gods, could easily destroy 2 gods and 6 demigods. My lord, you? The skinny old man's face changed dramatically, especially after what Lord Bachi had just said. The Dragon King said that he wanted to kill all of you, so he would kill all of you. This? You said that the Dragon King wants to kill you? Bachi didn't move at all. A tongue came to the skinny old man's side, wrapping around his body. My lord, no, no, great god Bachi. The thin and weak elder's face was filled with terror, but he did not dare to resist. Trash. Bachi's eyes were devoid of any emotion. Snakes were cold-blooded animals. His tongue coiled up, and the mouth of one of the heads actually expanded to 2 to 3 meters in size, directly swallowing the elder's body. Ah! A terrified scream rang out. The thin and weak elder was swallowed into his stomach without any resistance. A cold and gloomy feeling spread throughout the entire house. No matter what, the old man was a lower-level immortal. He was actually swallowed directly. In an instant, the gods in the Garden of Eden revealed a horrified expression. These 9-headed monsters actually swallowed even their own subordinates. Was it just because of that sentence about the Dragon King wanting to kill you? What the hell was this situation? Dragon King, I've eaten all of these useless things. Bachi licked his tongue and looked extremely terrifying. His 9 heads turned towards Wang Xian and said respectfully, What? When the gods in the Garden of Eden heard Bachi's words, they felt a chill down their spines again. They looked at Wang Xian in a daze. What was the relationship between Bachi and the Dragon King? Why was it like this? Don't waste it. Just kill them and bring them back to the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian felt that it was a waste when he saw Bachi devouring an immortal god directly. He told Bachi directly, It's the Dragon King. Bachi nodded his head and looked at the other 4 elders who were lying on the ground. Dragon King, how should we deal with these 4 people who offended you? You can deal with your subordinates yourself. Wang Xian took a glance at the 5 subordinates of Ba Qi. There was a thick stench of blood on their bodies. Although they were still a lot weaker than Ba Qi, they had definitely killed many people and committed many bad deeds. Wang Xian did not have a good impression of such sinister and evil people. Kiki, I don't need these useless people in the future. Ba Qi smiled and stuck out his tongue. His long tongue rolled up the 4 old men. Come, come, enter my stomach and sacrifice your lives for your god. Yes, yes. The 4 elders trembled, but they did not resist at all. They lay on the ground and were rolled up by the tongue and entered Ba Qi's mouth. Hiss! Everyone around felt their scalps go numb. This was simply too abnormal and terrifying. No, no, Ba Qi Dragon King, if you dare to kill us, our Garden of Eden will definitely not let you off. Don't kill us, don't kill us. When the gods of the Garden of Eden saw 8 points devouring their subordinates in a crazed manner, their bodies trembled and their faces were filled with fear as they spoke. Kiki, Garden of Eden's divine realm, am I, 8 points, afraid of you? 8 points extended his tongue and flicked it gently. An illusion flashed and directly pierced through his body. No, no. Seeing that Ba Qi dared to kill him directly, Osire's angel widened his eyes in fear. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With a loud sound, Ba Qi's tongue pierced through the remaining 7 gods in an instant. There was no emotion in his eyes. Has everything been settled? Wang Xian asked Ba Qi. Dragon King, everything has been settled. Ba Qi lowered his 9 heads and said respectfully to Wang Xian. Let's go. Wang Xian nodded his head and looked at the people from the 4 great immortal sections. I'll leave this place to you guys. All right, let's announce to the public that the Garden of Eden is cooperating with our Dragon Palace. Because they went back on their word, they demanded too much and were annihilated by our Dragon Palace. After he finished speaking, he looked at Xiaoyu. Are we going back? We'll play for a few more days. Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue and said with a smile. Okay. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. Following that, he flew out. Ba Qi placed the corpses in his interspatial ring and followed behind him respectfully as he flew towards the floating island. Hiss, this is too terrifying. One of the disciples from the 4 great immortal sects widened his eyes as he looked at the fresh blood around him. He was tongue-tied. What a terrifying octahedron. If you want to subdue or destroy the 9 Snakes Association, at least let one of the Xin Yuan clan and the Yuan clan take action. Otherwise, that terrifying existence has actually been taken in as a subordinate by the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King's strength is really unfathomable. He actually dared to directly destroy the gods of the Garden of Eden. Haha, this is so satisfying. The ancient Greek divine realm killed 2 immortal gods with just a sentence like the puppet immortal sex lion opening its mouth. Now, the Dragon King directly killed 8 immortal gods and returned them to the Western divine realm. Although they are not from the ancient Greek divine realm, their relationship with the ancient Greek divine realm is better. This is so satisfying. If the gods in the Garden of Eden didn't say that their relationship with the ancient Greek divine realm is better, the Dragon King might not have killed them. The immortals and disciples of the immortal sect said happily. The reason why the puppet immortal sect was killed by the gods of the divine realm was obviously unreasonable. This time, the Dragon King used the same reason to kill the people of the divine realm, which made them very happy. Although the relationship between the immortal sects was not very good, they were at least on the same side. When they faced the Western divine realm, they also shared a common enemy. The Dragon King's behavior undoubtedly boosted the momentum of the Eastern immortal sect. Miss you, has this place been occupied by your brother? At this time, an elder of the wild beast immortal sect asked Xiaoyu politely. No, the territory of the Dragon Palace is not on the surface. My brother will not occupy this place either. You guys can occupy this place. Xiaoyu smiled and shook her head. The territory of the Dragon Palace was in the ocean. This was something that Wang Xian had already decided on. He would only occupy the ocean and ignore the matters on the land. All right. Then, Thank the Dragon King on our behalf." The elder from the wild beast immortal sect nodded his head happily. The surrounding immortals and gods also thanked little Yu. Even Feng Lingtian's father had many thoughts in his mind. Now that the Dragon King's power was becoming more and more terrifying, no one dared to provoke the Dragon King's sister in the entire Jianghu. Even the Yuan clan and Xinyuan clan had to greet little Yu respectfully. No one responded to the title of the Dragon Palace's eldest princess. It wasn't an exaggeration to call her the princess of the entire Jianghu. Chapter 831 was a sensation. Right now, Xiao Yu's strength had already reached the realm of an immortal god. In the entire Jianghu, the person with the strongest background was Xiao Yu. With a powerful and terrifying elder brother, no one in the entire Jianghu dared to provoke him. In fact, because of the relationship between the son of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect's sect master and Xiao Yu, the entire Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect benefited greatly. And the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect's Feng Lingtian had become the most famous gigolo in the entire Jianghu, a man who lived off women. Every time Feng Lingtian heard this title, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch, but unfortunately, it would still take him a long time to break through to the immortal god realm. Moreover, Xiao Yu's talent and strength were too terrifying, and he was completely unqualified to compare with them. Secondly, with his powerful background, his father, who was at the middle immortal level, could be easily destroyed under Xiao Yu's background. Especially today, when the Dragon King once again displayed his invincible strength and unparalleled dominance. A terrifying and evil upper-level immortal was his subordinate. Because of the puppet immortal sect, he directly killed the people from the Garden of Eden. It was simply a tyrannical comparison. If this matter is announced, it will probably cause a sensation. The people from the 4 great immortal sects looked at each other and whispered. This matter would indeed cause a huge sensation. The Dragon King killing the 8 gods of the Western Divine Realm would cause a huge sensation in the entire world. Just as they thought, that night, the people from the 4 great immortal sects released the news of the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden being killed. This news quickly spread throughout the entire world. And among the immortal sects in Jianghu, it caused a huge sensation. It's simply too domineering. The Dragon King is indeed the Dragon King. Killing him is good. They killed 2 immortal gods of the Puppet Immortal Sect because of a huge demand from the Puppet Immortal Sect. Then we can use the same reason to kill the 8 immortal gods. It's simply too satisfying. Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon King, for avenging the disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect. Killing them was good. Killing them was too good. Kill those arrogant fellows. Awesome. An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. As expected of the Dragon King style, supporting the Dragon King this time. The Dragon King is getting more and more powerful now. This time, he really avenged our Huaxia Immortal Sect. The Dragon King is indeed worthy of being the Dragon King. The Xinyuan clan and the Yuan clan are still investigating the specific reason. When they will find an explanation for the Puppet Immortal Sect, the Dragon King directly killed 8 of their immortals. It was awesome. The Jianghu website was in an uproar. In the past 1 or 2 days, because the immortal gods of the Puppet Immortal Sect had been killed by the Divine Realm, it had caused a great sensation in the Jianghu. The disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect were especially sorrowful, but they had no way at all. They could only ask the Xinyuan clan, the Yuan clan, and the Wild Beast Immortal Sect to help them vent their anger. They were originally from the same root. The matter of the Puppet Immortal Sect had indeed aroused the sympathy of the disciples of the other immortal sects, and they all denounced the ancient Greek Divine Realm. However, today, the Wild Beast Immortal Sect, the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect, the Great Flood Immortal Sect, and the Yongchang Immortal Sect announced that the Garden of Eden and the Dragon Palace would cooperate on the medicinal pills. Because they had demanded too much, they had been directly killed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. When this news came out, everyone was dumbfounded. In the beginning, when the disciples of the immortal sects heard that the Puppet Immortal Sect had been killed by them because they had asked for too much, they started to curse. This was the most rubbish reason, The most unbelievable reason. However, it was useless even if they cursed again. However, today, the Dragon King used this reason to give back to the Western Immortal sections. Awesome. That was awesome. This made everyone sigh at the Dragon King's domineering attitude. Back then, the Holy Medicine Immortal sect ambushed the Dragon Gate forging workshop, killed the disciples of the Dragon Gate, and was annihilated by the Dragon King. At that time, everyone felt that the Dragon King's actions were domineering and arrogant. After half a year, they once again experienced the Dragon King's domineering attitude. This time, all the disciples of the Immortal sect supported the Dragon King's actions online. This Dragon King. In the Xinyuan clan, the Yuan clan was discussing the matter of the puppet Immortal sect. When they heard the news, they were speechless. The Dragon King directly killed the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden. It's not a good thing for us. It might cause a conflict between the Immortal sects and the Divine Realm. The Grand Elder of the Xinyuan clan slowly shook his head and said, "This is the Dragon King's doing. Even if they want to take revenge, they will find the Dragon King. But now, the Dragon Palace has to mobilize the power of the 2 divine realms to contend with the Dragon King. Yes, the Dragon King is too strong." The Wild Beast Immortal sect sent news that the Dragon King has subdued a superior immortal from the island nation. Now, the power of the Dragon Palace is unfathomable. The 2 immortal sects sighed slightly. The Dragon King's action could be considered to have solved the problem of the puppet Immortal sect. However, at this moment, in the far west, the Divine Realm was a domain of its own. In the vast western domain, the 7 divine realms occupied a huge space. The Divine Realm of the Garden of Eden was one of the more powerful divine realms. There were more than 20 immortal gods in the entire Divine Realm. The Divine Realm of the Garden of Eden looked like a garden at a glance. There were all kinds of trees growing inside. The entire Divine Realm was full of vitality. In the center of the divine territory, there were many dreamlike buildings. In the center, a piece of white metal that was more than 10 meters in size was hanging in the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, information appeared on the white metal. When the divine servants guarding the side saw the information, they were shocked and immediately flew into a hall. What? The Okra angels and the others were killed by the Huaxia Dragon King. An angry voice sounded in the Divine Realm. A burly old man flew out of the hall with a huge golden hammer in his hand. He stared at the message on the white metal. His face was extremely gloomy. Soon, the gods in the Divine Realm rushed over one by one. When their eyes swept over, they revealed shocked expressions. The gods had fallen. 8 of them had fallen. This was a huge matter for the entire Divine Realm. In the Western Divine Realm, the death of every god would cause a huge commotion. Now that 8 gods had fallen, it was no different from an earthquake. In particular, the reason why the 8 gods had been killed was so absurd. This was clearly a provocation to their divine realm. Very soon, this news spread throughout the 7 great divine realms, causing the entire divine realm to boil. Everyone's gaze fell on the ancient Greek divine realm. Because of all the reasons, it was still caused by the ancient Greek divine realm. The 7 divine realms were not united. There were also all sorts of differences and disputes. They did not unite to go to the east to take revenge. Instead, they quietly waited for the result. Just like how the puppet Immortal sect dealt with it, they quietly waited. The other divine realms also had an attitude of not caring about their own matters. Only the people from the ancient Greek divine realm and the Garden of Eden divine realm had extremely ugly expressions. Furious roars sounded in the divine realm. Chapter 832, Negotiation and Strength. Dragon King, our Dragon Palace has added another 6 immortals. Time passed very quickly. It had been 2 days since the last time they killed the gods of the Garden of Eden. Prime Minister Gue came to Wang Xian's side and said happily, "The 8 corpses of the gods of the Garden of Eden were absorbed by the dragon pool and turned into energy. This allowed the 6 members of the Dragon Palace to reach the realm of immortals. This dragon pool could be said to be a huge cheating device. As long as it absorbed energy, a large amount of dragon blood could be produced. Now, with the addition of the eight-limbed and crab generals, the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace had reached an astonishing 42. It might not be long before the immortals in the Dragon Palace can overturn the entire world. Wang Xian revealed a confident expression. This would take 4 to 5 years at most, or even faster. How is the search for information about the Western Divine Realm coming along? And about the invasion of the other seas, how are the preparations going? Wang Xian asked Prime Minister Gue. Dragon King, the strange demon has not gotten much information about the Western Divine Realm. The Divine Realm is a huge formation. Once we enter, we will be discovered. We are already making preparations for the invasion of the other seas. Tomorrow, Ao Qitian will lead a group of immortals and members of the Dragon Palace to battle. I believe that we will be able to completely control the entire subcontinent's seas in no time. Prime Minister Gue replied. Yes. Wang Xian nodded his head. He couldn't be the commander-in-chief of the expedition to the ocean. When there were no creatures of the superior immortal level, he didn't need to take action at all. The fastest way for the Dragon Palace to develop was to use the corpses of immortals to nurture immortals. This was also the reason why Wang Xian took action to kill the gods in the Garden of Eden. It wasn't just because their actions made him unhappy. It wasn't just because of the matter with the puppet immortal sect. Brother, the Grand Elder of the Xian Yuan clan, asked me to inform you of something. At this moment, Xiao Yu's voice came from above. Wang Xian looked up and smiled. What is it? Here, this is an envelope. The Grand Elder of the Xian Yuan clan said that the ancient Greek Divine Realm and the Garden of Eden Divine Realm wanted to talk to us about the 8 gods being killed by the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian threw an envelope over and said to him, Oh, I thought they would attack us directly. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. He opened the envelope and read the contents. The ancient Greek Divine Territory and the Garden of Eden Divine Territory invited the Dragon Palace to Wuwei Island to talk about the gods being killed in the Garden of Eden. The 8 gods were killed. Naturally, the Garden of Eden Divine Territory wanted to take revenge. However, with their current strength, they were no match for the Dragon Palace. Moreover, even if they wanted to take revenge, they didn't know the exact location of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace was located at the bottom of the vast ocean. Everyone knew that the Dragon Palace was located in the ocean, but no one knew the exact location. Hence, they had this invitation letter. I've already killed them. How do I solve this? The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. I want to go over and take a look. He moved his body and flew out directly. He shouted coldly, Let's go. Whoosh. In the Dragon Palace, the 9 dragons moved. Behind them was a golden dragon chair. 4 golden swordfish celestial beings were standing on the left and right. Wang Xian leaped lightly and landed on the dragon chair. He looked down at the sea with a smile on his face. Let's go. Wang Xian felt that he was now a big shot. He was riding on a powerful divine beast and had 4 bodyguards by his side. The current battle was no longer like the past. When it came to a battle, they would fight directly. Instead, they would discuss it in advance. If they couldn't reach an agreement, a battle might break out. Unknowingly, the ignorant kid from a few years ago had become a peerless powerhouse who was now awe-inspiring. Wuwei Island was quite far away from here. For immortals and gods, it would take at least half an hour's journey. Wuwei Island was located at the junction between the east and the west, where the subcontinent and the European continent were connected. The entire Wuwei Island was only 10 kilometers in circumference. At this moment, in the east of the island, a group of immortals and gods were stepping on auspicious clouds or spirit swords, looking at the position in front of them. The Xian Yuan clan and the Yuan clan's supreme elder were in the center. The 2 of them had a Xian Yuan sword and an earth fan, and their bodies were filled with an otherworldly aura. In front of them, a group of people were riding Pegasus. In the center, a burly old man was riding a 5-meter-long black Pegasus. The old man was holding a huge hammer in his hand, and his body was emitting a terrifying aura. His eyes were cold as he stared forward. Next to him, a group of 12 people were standing at the very front, each of them wielding different weapons. There were some who stood atop crows, some who rode on enormous sea beasts, and one who sat atop a levitating throne. His right hand was wielding an enormous divine staff, and on his left and right was a black crow that was 2 meters in size. Each of them was emitting a terrifying aura. 3 of them had the power of a high god. The Yuan clan and the Xinyuan clan faced their group, but their faces didn't change in the slightest. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace hasn't arrived yet. The muscular elder with the enormous hammer in his hand shouted coldly. Mad God, there's no need to be anxious. We've already notified him. He'll arrive soon. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan said calmly. Roar, roar. At this moment, roars sounded one after another. Everyone looked over, and their pupils constricted slightly. 9 20-meter-long flood dragons soared into the air. Their enormous bodies and powerful auras caused fear to rise in people's hearts. Behind the 9 flood dragons was a throne with a person sitting on it. The speed of the 9 flood dragons was extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in front of them. Other than the 9 terrifying dragons, the 4 swordsmen holding golden swords were seated on the left and right side of the throne. Haha, it seems that everyone has arrived so quickly. Wang Xian stood up and swept his gaze across the 2 groups of people in front of him. They should be the divine territory of the Garden of Eden and the ancient Greek divine territory. What brings you here today? HMPH, Dragon King, you know the answer, but you still ask. Do you think that the matter of killing the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden will be resolved just like that? The old man with the huge hammer in his hand pointed in the air. A terrifying aura was emitted. Mad God, let the gods of the ancient Greek divine realm tell us why they killed the 2 immortals of our Huaxia sect. The grand elder of the Xinyuan clan said to him indifferently. How can the lives of 2 immortals be compared to the lives of the 8 of us? The old man roared furiously. A huge wave that was 100 meters high rose from the bottom of the sea. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you have the guts, then kill me. Wang Xian's gaze was cold as he swept his gaze across the gods of the 2 major celestial realms. If you want to call me over, just tell me what you want. With that name, you, ancient Greece, can kill 2 people directly. So what if I kill 8 people? Since you're already dead, just tell me what you want now. Chapter 833, Dragon Palace Upgrade. In the sky above Wuwei Island, the atmosphere was extremely heavy. The 2 forces were emitting a terrifying aura. Wang Xian stood on the dragon throne and stared at all of them with a domineering expression. His face revealed a cold expression. When the gods from the Garden of Eden and ancient Greece heard Wang Xian's words, their faces revealed a gloomy expression. He was already dead. What else did he want? He was extremely powerful. Bang! Mad God's huge hammer struck the void once again. The terrifying energy caused the waves to churn. He stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent. Dragon King, you killed the gods of the Garden of Eden. You are trying to start a war. Mad God growled in a low voice with a ferocious expression. Wang Xian smiled and nodded. We can fight at any time. You guys can set a time and place. Arrogant. Is this the attitude of the Western immortal sects today? On the other side, the old man who was sitting on the throne looked coldly in the direction of the Xinyuan clan and the Yuan clan. Master of Olympus, the cause of this incident is all because of you. The puppet immortal sect is the Dragon King's friend. You used an absurd reason to kill 2 of their immortals. That's why today's incident happened. The elder of the Yuan clan said with a smile on his face. All right. It seems like we can't come to an agreement today. The elder held up the scepter beside him coldly and said with a cold expression. I would like to know how you guys are going to talk about this. Wang Xian crossed his arms and looked at all of them. Kill the gods of the Garden of Eden's divine territory and give us sufficient resources as compensation. Otherwise, we will be enemies. As the mad god spoke, the black warhorse raised its front hooves and looked like it was about to attack. What wishful thinking. If you want to fight, then fight. If not, then get lost. Wang Xian laughed out loud and shouted at them directly. Good, good. Dragon King, our ancient Greek divine realm will remember this. There will be plenty of time in the future. All of you will pay a heavy price for this. The master of Olympus stood up coldly and stared at Wang Xian. Wang Xian did not show any signs of weakness as he swept his gaze across all of them. If you want to start a war, I will accompany you at any time. Let's go. The gods swept their gaze across Wang Xian with murderous intent. Their bodies moved and they flew into the distance. Dragon King, although you have vented your anger over this matter, you have to be careful in the future. The Western Divine Territory is very powerful. The Grand Elder of the Xin Yuan clan watched as the people from the Divine Realm left. He turned his head slowly and said to Wang Xian, Hee, thank you for your reminder. Wang Xian cupped his hands. This time, our Eastern Immortal sect has formed a conflict with the Western Divine Realm. The feud between the East and the West has existed for a long time. 1,000 years ago, the Western Divine Realm was defeated by our Immortal sect. For more than 200 years, he had to submit to us. However, the distance between the two parties is too great. The West belongs to them. Later on, they gave birth to a powerful godly king in the West to get rid of our suppression. Soon after our Immortal sect entered the world of the Cauldron to survive, the Western Divine Realm also established the Divine Realm with divine objects and entered the Divine Realm. The Western Divine Realm was only born not too long ago. Now, the changes in the West are even greater than ours. They directly rule the entire Western world. They are gods, and ordinary people worship them. The Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan said slowly, Hee, if there is sufficient spiritual energy on Earth, it might even evolve into a fantasy world. Wang Xian said with a smile. The two of them nodded in agreement. If there was sufficient spiritual energy, the technological world would disappear and become a fantasy world. Oh right, Elder Yuan, your Yuan clan is good at formations. I wonder if we can trade some grade 2 formations with you. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he asked the Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan. Formations? We do have grade 2 formations. However, the rarity of grade 2 formations is not inferior to a celestial artifact. If the Dragon King wants it, he can exchange it with a celestial artifact. The Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan replied with a smile. I want 7 grade 2 formations. Any kind of formation with any effect is fine. I wonder if you guys have any? A glint flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he asked with a smile. Yes, of course. It would be even better if the Dragon King could produce an Earth-type celestial artifact. The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan said. All right, we might not have 7 Earth-type formations. If you have the materials, I can help you refine them too. Wang Xian nodded his head immediately. Deal. The formation is located in our Yuan clan. Please follow us, Dragon King. All right. Wang Xian was all smiles. He sat on the dragon throne and followed the Yuan clan members as they flew towards the Gate of Immortality. Look, that's the Dragon King. Oh my god. He's so domineering. Those 9 dragons are immortal-level existences. Now, they are actually pulling the throne for the Dragon King. The 9 dragons are riding on the throne. They are simply too powerful. When they arrived at the Yuan clan's Gate of Immortality, the disciples of the Yuan clan below looked at the gigantic 9 dragons in shock. Their eyes were filled with respect and admiration. When they arrived at the Yuan clan's Celestial Mountain, the Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan handed the 7 formations to Wang Xian. He handed over the 7 immortal-level artifacts 2 days later. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and caused a commotion once again. He flew towards the Dragon Palace. The 10 level 2 formations have been gathered. The buildings that need to be upgraded in the Dragon Palace have been completed. With the addition of these 7 formations, the Dragon Palace will be upgraded to level 2. Wang Xian revealed an excited expression. A level 2 Dragon Palace had doubled its effectiveness. This upgrade would bring great benefits to the members of the Dragon Palace. The cultivation speed could be doubled and reach a terrifying level. Initially, he thought that the Yuan clan might not agree to it due to some conflict with them. However, from the looks of it now, it was completely different from what he had imagined. The celestial artifact was also a rare treasure for the Yuan clan. After arriving at the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian hovered above the Dragon Palace and swept his gaze downwards. Dragon Palace, Level 1. Dragon Master, Wang Xian, Level 9 5 Elemental Divine Dragon. Buildings. Dragon King Palace, Level 2, increases the Dragon King's cultivation speed and recovery speed by 600%. Dragon Transformation Pool, Level 2, absorbing dragon blood can give birth to a dragon seed, Dragon Blood, 143232. Dragon Gate, Level 2, only a fish can become a dragon after leaping through the Dragon Gate, effective against creatures below Level 12. Ocean Pacifying Needle, Level 2, Pillar of the Dragon Palace, pacify the Dragon Palace for 20 miles, increase the combat strength of the members of the Dragon Palace by 100%. Dragon Cave, Level 2, with 2,000 Dragon Caves, the cultivation speed of the creatures in the Dragon Cave will be increased by 400%. Dragon Field, Level 2, practice martial arts in the Dragon Field, increase comprehension by 200%. Dragon Array, Level 1, Spirit Gathering Array, Level 1, double the gathering of spiritual power. Water Array, Level 1, able to resist attacks below Level 12. Spirit Item, Ancestral Tree, Level, able to return souls to creatures below Level 13. Activated Creature Intelligence, increases the speed of fire attribute cultivators by 100%. Chapter 834, Dragon Palace's Upgrade. I still need to upgrade the last array formation. Once the array formation is upgraded, the entire Dragon Palace can be upgraded to Level 2. Wang Xian was excited. After the Dragon Palace was upgraded to Level 2, apart from doubling its various functions, the Dragon Palace would have an ability. Moving. A Level 2 Dragon Palace could move under the sea. In other words, he could move the position of the Dragon Palace. Buzz. Wang Xian waved his arm and threw the formation compasses above the Dragon Palace. 7 Level 2 formations found. Do you want to fuse them? Fuse. The fusion is complete. 10 Level 2 formations of the Dragon Palace have been fused. The Dragon Formation has been upgraded to Level 2. All the buildings in the Dragon Palace have been upgraded to Level 2. The Dragon Palace has met the requirements to be upgraded to Level 2. The voice of the system came one after another, and in an instant, the Dragon Palace below started to undergo a terrifying change. The Dragon Palace, which originally occupied an area of 10 kilometers, suddenly became bigger, and all the buildings inside became bigger like miracles. The Dragon King Palace, the Dragon Transformation Pool, the Ocean Pacifying Needle, the Dragon Gate, the Dragon Field, the Dragon Cave, and all the other buildings were all expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the mountains in the Dragon Palace had undergone great changes. All the members of the Dragon Palace came to the sky of the Dragon Palace in shock and felt the great changes in the Dragon Palace. The spiritual chi in the Dragon Palace was increasing at a crazy speed. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, the entire Dragon Palace was covered by array formations of various colors, and the entire area became extremely illusory. This was an array formation. A Level 1 Dragon Palace only had 2 array formations, the Spirit Gathering Array and the Water Area Array. The Water Area Array could withstand the attacks of creatures below Level 12. All kinds of changes were made to the buildings, and the array formation also underwent earth-shaking changes. The entire Dragon Palace was as beautiful as a holy land. The water tribe around the Dragon Palace sensed the changes in the Dragon Palace, and they all gathered around as if they were worshipping. The Dragon Palace was expanding at a very fast speed. Everything inside was expanding. It has doubled in size now, but it still hasn't stopped. Wang Xian looked at the expansion of the Dragon Palace with joy on his face. The current 20-kilometer radius was already a huge area in his eyes. However, it wasn't over yet. Wang Xian stood in the sky above the Dragon Palace and waited slowly. 2 hours later, the expansion of the Dragon Palace finally stopped. Ding! The Dragon Palace has been upgraded to level 2. All the construction effects have been doubled. New functions have been activated. The system's voice was heard. It meant that the Dragon Palace was completely completed. Dragon Palace, Level 2. Dragon Master, Wang Xian, Level 9 5 Elemental Divine Dragon. Buildings. Dragon King Palace, Level 2. Increases the Dragon King's cultivation speed and recovery speed by 1,200%. Dragon Transformation Pool, Level 2. Absorbing dragon blood can give birth to a dragon seed, Dragon Blood. 143,232. Dragon Gate, Level 2. A fish can only become a dragon after leaping through the Dragon Gate, effective against creatures below the Transcendent level. Ocean Pacifying Needle, Level 2. Pillar of the Dragon Palace. Set 100 kilometers of calm in the Dragon Palace. Increase the combat strength of the members of the Dragon Palace by 200%. Dragon Cave, Level 2. With 2,000 Dragon Caves, the cultivation speed of the creatures in the Dragon Cave will be increased by 800%. Dragon Field, Level 2. Practice martial arts in the Dragon Field. Increase comprehension by 400%. Dragon Array, Level 2. Dragon Palace Array. Concealment, defense, gathering of spiritual energy, movement. Spirit Item, Ancestral Tree. Level, able to return souls to creatures below Transcendent level. Activate spiritual intelligence of creatures. Increase the speed of fire attribute cultivators by 200%. Attached, Dragon Transformation Pool to nurture dragon species. Current dragon species: Golden Swordfish, Thunder Shrimp, Demon Monkey, Demon, Hydra, Dragon Turtle, Yaksha, Clam Girl, Golden Lobster. Hiss, this is the effect of the upgrade. Wang Xian looked at the changes in the entire Dragon Palace after the upgrade. He was shocked. Now that the Dragon Palace's range had increased to 50 kilometers, it had increased by 5 times. The effects of all kinds of buildings had doubled. In other words, ordinary members of the Dragon Palace would cultivate 8 times faster in the Dragon Cave than in the outside world. This was a terrifying increase. His cultivation speed in the Dragon King Palace was 12 times faster than in the outside world. In addition, the improvement of the Dragon Array was completely different from when it was at level 1. It had become the Dragon Palace's Great Array. The defense of this Great Array could withstand the attacks of creatures below the Transcendent level. In other words, even a superior immortal could not enter the Dragon Palace. The effects of the Ancestral Tree were still abnormal. The special effect of the opening of the Dragon Pool made Wang Xian's eyes burn with excitement. Nurturing a dragon seed. In other words, when a creature entered the Dragon Pool, it could transform into another race through this ability. For example, a turtle could choose to evolve into a demonic monkey or a strange demon under the function of nurturing a dragon seed. This was a perverse ability, and it was also the foundation of the Dragon Palace's strength. Currently, there weren't many departments in the Dragon Palace. It was extremely difficult to find another race that was exactly the same. With this method to nurture a dragon seed, one could nurture a fish into a demon monkey and form a fixed race. If that's the case, the Dragon Palace will become stronger and stronger in the future. Wang Xian's eyes flashed with a fiery glow. As for upgrading the Dragon Palace to level 3, Wang Xian took a brief look. It was not something that he could upgrade at this moment. All the items that he needed were extraordinary items. Wang Xian entered the Dragon Palace. The 100-meter-tall ocean-pacifying divine needle was extremely majestic and looked like the pillar of the Dragon Palace. The entire Dragon King Palace had expanded by 5 times. The moment he entered, he could feel the obvious spiritual energy. It was not weaker than the spiritual energy in the 9 cauldrons. The dragon chair became more than 50 meters long, and a divine dragon coiled from head to tail, looking very domineering. The Ancestral Tree in the Dragon Palace had completely merged into one. The Ancestral Tree had also received a great improvement this time. The effects of the soul-returning wood, the Tree of Servitude, and the endless wood were all very abnormal. Because of the endless wood, the cultivation speed of the fire element in the entire dragon palace had doubled again, which was very abnormal. Unfortunately, only Guan Shuqing was a fire attribute cultivator in the dragon palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing, and the other girls suddenly returned and entered the dragon palace. Little Xian, how did the dragon palace undergo such a huge change? Lan Qingyue looked around in shock with an incredulous expression. They didn't know that Wang Xian had obtained the system. After leaving for a few days, the entire dragon palace had turned into a huge city. It was even more majestic and magnificent. The spiritual energy has doubled. The defensive and concealment effects have also reached the peak below transcendence. Guan Shuqing's eyes were flickering with flames. It was obvious that Feng Luan had taken over her body. At this moment, her eyes were filled with shock. What kind of power could cause such a terrifying change to the dragon palace? She moved her body and looked at everything around her. She looked at the endless wood, the ocean-pacifying divine needle, and the dragon pond behind her. Wang Xian didn't answer them. He looked at their shocked expressions and smiled at the side. Soon, the dragon palace would rule the entire ocean. Chapter 835, Body Sculpting. Wang Xian, I heard from Xiaoyu, Qingyu, Guan Shuqing, and the rest that you were once resurrected here. Feng Luan came to the side of the dragon pool. Her eyes were sparkling as she stared at the dragon pool. There was not much dragon blood there, and it was emitting a mysterious power. There were 9 divine dragons coiled around the 9 dragon pillars. They looked like real divine dragons. Yes. Wang Xian looked at her and suddenly guessed something. Do you want it? To rebuild my body. After this period of training, I have already made preparations. Feng Luan's eyes flickered as she said. She could be considered to have taken over Guan Shuqing's body. After a few months, there were many things that she could not do besides not getting used to it. She needed her own body, needed to return to the supernatural world, and needed to improve her strength quickly. She needed revenge. How do you need to rebuild your body? Are there any losses to Shuqing's body? Wang Xian frowned slightly and asked her. I need to take half of the vermilion bird essence blood. However, with our current strength, even if we split it equally, we still have the strength of a superior immortal. Feng Luan said to Wang Xian. Also, I need the blood essence in the dragon pool. I don't know what kind of fortuitous encounter you had. The blood essence here is extremely sacred. I can absorb it and convert it into vermilion bird's blood. I can use the blood essence here to reconstruct my body. Sure. Wang Xian nodded slowly. He didn't want Shu Qing to occupy the same body with another person, especially when they were on the bed. Shu Qing was initially very cooperative, but she suddenly stopped moving. Then, he knew that there must be a change of people. However, he couldn't stop at that time and could only continue. Feng Luan, whose body was trembling, didn't even have the strength to speak, let alone leave. At first, Wang Xian felt that it was very exciting. However, he felt slightly uncomfortable after experiencing it a few times. He felt like he was a corpse. Dragon King. At this moment, the voice of Prime Minister Gu Ei and the rest was heard. Wang Xian looked over and saw Ao Qitian and Ao Qi dragging a huge corpse. 2 of the corpses were more than 20 meters long. They were a huge shark with a huge head. Each tooth was about 7 to 8 meters long and looked extremely intimidating. These are the immortal level creatures that we killed in the Indian Ocean. There are a total of 4 of them. These 4 creatures are not intelligent and have no attributes. However, their vital energy and blood are very rich and their strength is terrifying. Ao Qitian reported to Wang Xian. All right. Wang Xian looked at the 4 corpses and initially thought that he would be unable to enter the dragon cave to slowly absorb the blood essence of the 4 lower-level immortal level creatures. He looked at Feng Luan beside him and said, the blood essence of the 4 lower-level immortal level creatures should be able to heal your body, right? It's best to have these immortal-level creatures. After rebuilding my body, I no longer need to increase the strength of my body. Feng Luan nodded her head and looked at the 9 dragon pillars. The 9 dragon heads that were entrenched on the dragon pillars had glistening blood flowing out of their mouths. Every drop of blood was extremely noble. When will it be carried out? Wang Xian asked her. Since everything is complete, let's do it now. Feng Luan took a deep breath. Her eyes were sparkling as she said to Wang Xian, how confident are you? Wang Xian took a look at her and asked hesitantly. Don't worry. Shu Qing will not suffer any losses. I have a 50% confidence. Feng Luan said. 50%? Isn't that too low? Should we wait a little longer? Wang Xian looked at her expression and reminded her. I am not nirvana. Instead, I am resurrected from the dead. This is a miracle in itself. Unless there is an extremely heaven-defying treasure, I will be in danger of dying. Don't worry, this is my choice. Her eyes were filled with determination. As an empress, a 50% chance of success was already very big in her eyes. All right, if there's anything I can help you with, just tell me directly. Wang Xian nodded and said, All right, I'm going to start. Later, I'm going to separate from Shu Qing's body. As Feng Luan spoke, the spot between her brows suddenly lit up. Wang Xian saw that she was so eager to rebuild her body. He watched helplessly from the side to prevent any accidents from happening. A faint flame surrounded Guan Shuqing's body. The flame did not have the slightest warmth. Instead, it was filled with vitality. This was the fire of nirvana, the fire of life. The clothes on her body were directly turned into ashes under the flame. The spot between her eyebrows twitched violently as if something wanted to jump out from the middle. Hiss! A soft sound was heard. Wang Xian saw a red blood flying out from the area between his eyebrows. The blood of the vermilion bird. Wang Xian took a look and saw Guan Shuqing's body falling to the side. He quickly used his hand to support her. Guan Shuqing called out softly. She grabbed his arm and called out softly, Xiaoxian. Yes, it's done. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shuqing and revealed a happy smile on his face. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Lan Qingyue and the rest saw the situation over here and flew over quickly. Xiaoxian, Sister Feng Luan is very pitiful. Guan Shuqing hugged Wang Xian's arm and said to him, Let's see. It's fate for people from 2 worlds to meet. Wang Xian smiled faintly and looked at the dragon pool. The vermilion bird's blood essence entered the dragon pool. Feng Luan took the initiative to absorb the blood essence and began to condense her physical body. To condense a physical body with just a drop of blood essence was something that only a terrifying powerhouse could do. Even Feng Luan, who was at her peak, could not do this, let alone now. Fortunately, there was dragon blood in the dragon palace. This dragon blood belonged to an ownerless object. It was just a pure energy body and could be easily absorbed. Gradually, an illusory head appeared in everyone's sight. It had an exquisite face, noble and cold. Even though it did not open its eyes, it still gave people a feeling of looking down on the world. This was the powerful aura that came from being in a high position for a long time. Even Wang Xian was far from it. So beautiful. Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and the rest looked at the condensed head and could not help but be stunned. There were no flaws at all. It was completely flawless and as exquisite as a work of art. After condensing a head, Feng Luan's blood essence has been consumed by more than half. Suddenly, Sun Lingxiu, who was at the side, frowned and exclaimed, This is bad. Perhaps the energy in the blood essence is not enough. Feng Luan's behavior is similar to nirvana. The phoenix's body is extremely weak before nirvana. This is because they need to store the energy and use it during nirvana. When Feng Luan and Shu Qing occupy a body together, they might be able to succeed. But now? Lan Qingyue's eyes sparkled with a gray glow. The cultivation of the Kuan was to enhance the strength of the physical body. Therefore, Lan Xingyue knew more about the physical body than Wang Xian. Chapter 836. Empress had returned. Then what should we do? If Sister Feng Luan's blood essence and energy are insufficient, she can't reconstruct her body at all. Why don't we let her enter my body again? Guan Shuqing asked anxiously. In the past few months, Feng Luan and she had shared the same body. The two of them were able to communicate with each other. At the beginning, Feng Luan was extremely cold and arrogant. But as time passed, the two of them gradually began to talk. Feng Luan taught Guan Shuqing many things. She even imprinted her own cultivation method, artifact refinement, and pill refinement techniques into her mind. The Empress didn't know how long she had been asleep. Although the two of them occupied the same body, it didn't prevent them from talking and communicating. In the past month, they could even share the same perspective. It was also because of Feng Luan that Guan Shuqing was able to reach the realm of a superior immortal. The relationship between the two of them had far surpassed that of friends. Phoenix Nirvana requires blood essence. What else do you need? Wang Xian frowned as he stared at Feng Luan in the dragon pool and asked. Buzz. Lan Xingyue waved her arm and a faint gray energy entered Feng Luan's body. Suddenly, the area of her head burst into flames. Other than the blood essence, she also needs flames. As long as she has enough flames, she will be able to achieve nirvana successfully. Lan Xingyue said immediately. Flames. Wang Xian opened his mouth and the dragon pearl came directly to the top of Feng Luan's head. Streams of flame liquid flowed directly into her head. As expected, under the enhancement of the dragon pearl's flames, Feng Luan's body was rapidly condensing. Guan Shuqing saw that it was effective. She waved her arm, and similarly dense and terrifying flames turned into flame water, slowly landing above her head. Terrifying flames poured out, and Feng Luan began to condense below her head. Her neck, arm, and chest. She floated above the dragon pool. Above her head was powerful flames, and below her was dragon blood, slowly gathering. The position of the heart is not weaker than the human head. If I want to reconstruct it, the energy required may be extremely terrifying. When she was condensing her chest, her speed slowed down again. Even with the help of Wang Xian and the rest's powerful flames, it was still very slow. The drop of vermilion bird essence blood even started to flicker. What should we do? Guan Shuqing looked worried. The success rate of 50% was not high to begin with, and the probability of failure was already 50%. If they failed, they would really be annihilated this time. Don't worry, I have another idea. Wang Xian stroked Guan Shuqing's head and moved to the dragon throne of the Dragon King Palace. He looked at the endless wood on the ancestral tree. When he obtained the endless wood, it was only the size of a chopstick. Now, it was 2 meters long and as thick as a child's arm. Wang Xian broke half of it and flew to the sky above Feng Luan again. He threw the endless wood at Feng Luan's chest. Buzz. The endless wood entered her chest directly. Following that, half of the endless wood lit up on her chest like a blood vessel. Her heart began to beat slowly. We did it. The girls were pleasantly surprised. The endless wood belonged to the divine wood, even if it was several levels higher than a transcendent item. This kind of wood was originally a dead wood. It could only be revived because of the ancestral tree and regain its previous terrifying power. Even though it was only a twig, it was still extremely powerful. The endless wood entered her body as though it had turned into blood vessels. It slowly connected her head and limbs. The speed of her lower body was increasing. It was condensing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wang Xian revealed a smile as he sized up the empress who had reconstructed her body. There were no clothes on her body at all. Perfect. It was simply too perfect. Boom. At this moment, a powerful pressure was emitted from Feng Luan's body. A vermilion bird phantom appeared around her and flew around her body. A pair of bright eyes opened, and there was a vermilion bird jumping in them. A majestic aura spread out in all directions. What a powerful aura! Even though Feng Luan only had the strength of a high-level immortal, she still had the urge to make people kneel down and worship her. She was like an ancient emperor, patrolling the world. People could not help but laugh as they knelt on the ground. The flames in Feng Luan's eyes gradually receded and the aura on her body disappeared. However, her outstanding temperament was still incomparably noble. Her fiery red long hair fluttered behind her, and her entire body was as white as snow. "Thank you." She looked at Wang Xian and thanked him. "No need." Wang Xian felt that he couldn't take his eyes off her. He nodded his head in a daze. "Pervert." Guan Shuqing, who was at the side, twisted Wang Xian and shouted loudly. All the girls looked over and realized that Wang Xian was staring at Feng Luan's body with glowing eyes. Feng Luan was stunned for a moment. She couldn't react at all. When she lowered her head to look at her body, her face was flushed red. Even her entire neck had turned pink. She looked extremely attractive. Her body moved and flames covered her body. A vermilion bird-shaped armor covered her entire body. The fiery red armor and fiery red hair made her look like a female god of war in an instant. This made Wang Xian's eyes light up again. "Humph!" Lan Xingyue and the rest snorted in dissatisfaction as they stared at Wang Xian coldly. "Ahem, as long as it works." Feng Luan took a glance at Wang Xian as her eyelashes fluttered nonstop. This reminded her of what had happened during this period of time. Although it was not her body, there was no difference between it and her own body. She took a deep breath and shielded herself from those thoughts. When she thought of the Empress of the extraordinary mainland, who commanded billions of lives, men were no different from women in her eyes. No man dared to pursue her. Those who could stand with her were old men who had lived for 5,000 or 6,000 years, 7,000 or 8,000 years. Other than these old monsters, the other men could only kneel in front of her and worship her. "Sister Feng Luan." Guan Shuqing ran over happily. Feng Luan smiled and stroked Guan Shuqing's hair happily. "All right, everything has been completed. I'll get someone to prepare some delicious food. Let's celebrate." Wang Xian said happily. "The upgrade of the Dragon Palace and the return of the Empress. All right, let's go. Let's celebrate." Guan Shuqing and the other girls said happily as they flew towards the Dragon King Palace. Feng Luan didn't fly in front. Instead, she came to Wang Xian's side. After glancing at him, she immediately looked ahead. "I feel that my body has the brand of your Dragon Palace. It's because your body is formed from the items in my Dragon Palace. Using dragon blood to form a body and endless wood to form a heart, Feng Luan's body could be considered a member of the Dragon Palace. If she died, Wang Xian could revive her through the soul-returning wood." Feng Luan looked around and said softly, "I'll be leaving in a few days." "Leaving? Where to?" Wang Xian asked in surprise. "Back to the Transcendence continent." Feng Luan replied. "What? You found the way back?" Wang Xian asked in surprise. "In the past few days, I have investigated and found a way back. After opening it, I can return." Monthly ticket. Monthly ticket. Thank you, thank you. Chapter 837. The Way Back. "Sister Feng Luan, are you going back?" At the huge dining table in the dragon bedroom, Guan Shuqing asked Feng Luan in surprise. "I'll go back when I reach the transcendent realm." Feng Luan nodded, and a cold look flashed in her eyes. "That's my world. I have some things to deal with." Guan Shuqing looked at her expression and pursed her lips. She knew what was going on. There was only one empress who appeared in the history of time. Her talent and strength were definitely unparalleled in the history of time. However, such an empress was betrayed and only a drop of her blood essence escaped. If Wang Xian didn't accidentally obtain the vermilion bird's blood essence, and if he didn't activate the vermilion bird's blood essence with his divine dragon bloodline, she wouldn't be able to revive. She would be completely destroyed in the future. She wanted to take revenge on these enemies. She wanted to take back everything that belonged to her. When you return, it might not be the world you were in the past. Wang Xian looked at Feng Yuan and said slowly. As she sat there, she naturally exuded a sense of nobility. This kind of nobility was something that even a Jia could not compare to. It was possible that she was only missing a crown. Feng Yuan was slightly silent and did not speak. She did not know how long she had been dead for, whether it was 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years. It was possible that the empire back then had already fallen. It was also possible that the enemy back then had already died. It might not be long before I go to the Transcendence continent. Do you want to go there together after a period of time? Wang Xian continued to speak to Feng Yuan. On Earth, even if Wang Xian devoured all the aquatic creatures, it would only allow him to stay in the supernatural realm. He had to enter a higher world. He thought that he had to cross the void to search for a higher world. However, there was a path now. He would enter a stronger world from this path. Long Shao was in the universe. Earth was only his first step. He had to go out eventually. Feng Yuan shook her head slowly. What I'm about to do is too dangerous. You're still too weak. Hee. Wang Xian laughed when he heard her words. A strong sense of confidence appeared on his face. He stared at the Empress with a burning gaze. Do you know how long it took me to reach this step from an ordinary person? 3 years, less than 3 years. Do you know about Qingyue's talent? Do you know Lingxiu's talent? The current you is inferior to them. Feng Yuan frowned and looked at Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu. Wang Xian's words made a dignified Empress unhappy. However, she could feel a mysterious power from Lan Qingyue's body. This power was still very weak now, but it would be extremely terrifying in the future. There was also Sun Lingxiu. That dense light energy was as holy as a god. She had to admit that this guy's 2 women had even greater potential than her in the future. Not to mention this guy opposite her. There was a dragon race on the transcendental continent. She didn't know much about that dragon race, but she also knew that they were the top existences on the continent. At the very least, you guys still can't keep up with my pace, the Empress said with some dissatisfaction. Hee. Wang Xian smiled and didn't say anything else. Sister Feng Yuan, why don't we go to your world together in the future? Guan Shuqing also suggested. Feng Yuan hesitated for a moment, but she still shook her head. I want to go there. There are many things that I need to deal with. Seeing Feng Yuan refuse again, Guan Shuqing and the others had no choice. In the following period of time, the group went to the Dragon Palace to play and cultivate. After the Dragon Palace became 50 kilometers long, it became even more beautiful and glorious. A few beautiful girls played with some aquatic creatures and went to the floating island to play. Every day, they were extremely happy. During this period of time, Tang Yinchuan's strength had broken through to the immortal god realm. Her cultivation method was a little strange. Her water attribute and sound waves were stronger in support, but weaker in battle. Furthermore, Tang Yinxian had a group of dolphin companions in the Dragon Palace. These dolphins had yet to officially join the Dragon Palace and had been cultivating in the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian had passed the water dragon transformation technique to them. In the Dragon Palace, these dolphins cultivated very quickly. In just over a year's time, more than a dozen of them had broken through to the infant stage while the rest were at the dance stage. Similar to Tang Yinchuan's characteristics, these dolphins' attacks were very weak, and their defensive support energy was quite abnormal. After killing the 8 gods of the Garden of Eden, the previous negotiations also collapsed, but the other side did not take any revenge. Their strength did not dare to take revenge either. During this period of time, Aochitian had been on a crusade in all directions. Very quickly, the entire sea area around the subcontinent was ruled. The sea area in the eastern hemisphere of the Earth was all within the Dragon Palace. The number of immortals and deities in the Dragon Palace had also directly reached 52. A year had passed, and the entire world was calm and tranquil. The divine realm and the immortal sects had more frequent contact. Even the world network had been opened up, and the warriors of the entire world could communicate in it. At present, there were more than 200 million cultivators in the world, with more than 100 million warriors in the West. The Eastern immortal sect was like an immortal, high and mighty. The Western divine realm was like a god, looking down on all living things. However, this world was still a technological society. It was just that the rules were gradually set by the immortals. Boom, boom, boom. A year later, in the morning, a terrifying pressure filled the entire Dragon Palace. All the members of the Dragon Palace instantly felt as if they were facing a great enemy. Even the array formation in the Dragon Palace began to tremble. Wang Xian, who was in the bedroom of Long Xiang, had a change in expression. He immediately flew out. "I've broken through." A majestic voice was heard. Wang Xian, Shu Qing, Lan Qingyue, and the rest saw Feng Luan floating in the middle of the Dragon King Palace. There was a small vermilion bird between her brows. The vermilion bird was circling around her body, exuding a terrifying aura. Hiss, she's really fast. Wang Xian looked at Feng Luan in astonishment. He still needed 10 million dragon chi to break through. Sister Feng Luan, Guan Shuqing, and the other girls flew over. "I'm leaving." Feng Luan, who had broken through to the Transcendence realm, had undergone a huge change. Transcendence of mortals. This is what a true immortal should be like. I feel that the energy in his body is sufficient to kill me instantly. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. "If we are fated, we will meet again on the Transcendence continent." Wang Xian looked at Feng Luan and said to her, "If we are fated, we will meet again." Feng Luan nodded. A transcendent aura was slowly emitted from her body. "Perhaps one day, when I reach the peak again, I will look for you guys." Domineering, transcendent, and fierce. At this moment, the Empress was showing her prowess. "I'm leaving." She was obviously not a person who was good at parting. Her body moved, and she directly disappeared, flying toward the west. "Sister Feng Luan, we will look for you." Guan Shuqing and the others shouted loudly. "When I reach the peak and become the Empress, I will look for you. At that time, we will meet again." Chapter 838. Channel opened up the spiritual energy impact. "Wait for me to step onto the peak and become the Empress." A domineering voice echoed in the Dragon Palace as his figure disappeared. Wang Xian looked towards the place where she disappeared. He knew where Feng Luan went, the deepest part of the ocean, 10,000 meters under the sea. There was a passageway there. According to Feng Luan, it was a spatial passageway. It was a passageway opened up by a terrifying almighty with the power to break the heavens. As for which mighty figure it was, she did not know. However, she was certain that the experts of the transcendent continent could not do it. Once her strength reached the level of a transcendent, she would be able to circle the earth in half an hour. Her speed was extremely terrifying. In a trench 10,000 meters deep under the sea, a sacred figure of flames appeared in the sky above the abyss. She looked down at the trench and spread her arms slightly. Chirp! A phoenix cry sounded, and she directly dived down. The terrifying flames directly collided with a black vortex below. Boom! The strange vortex seemed to cause even space and time to tremble. The vortex slowly opened up under the powerful flames. Feng Luan's eyes shone brightly. Flames shot out from her eyes. She waved her arms and two huge wings appeared behind her. The wings moved towards the vortex. The vortex slowly split open and the scene of another world appeared. Feng Luan's eyes revealed a look of desire. Not good. The spiritual energy is attacking. The spiritual energy on Earth is thin, but after opening the passage to the transcendent world, the spiritual energy from the transcendent world will rush into Earth. Feng Luan's expression changed slightly. This attack was the most violent when the passage was just opened. It was like the moment the dam opened and released water, it would cause a terrifying impact. Under this terrifying impact, it would directly cause the death of living creatures. And although Feng Luan's strength was extraordinary, this was not a dam, but the impact of two worlds. The terrifying spirit qi directly surged towards Feng Luan, causing a trace of fear to appear in her eyes. Chirp, chirp. Her name was called out, and the vermilion bird flame emitted a terrifying radiance on her body. Boom! However, at the instant of the spirit cheese impact, the flame on her body seemed to have been directly poured into a basin of water and was almost extinguished. No! A rarely seen panic appeared in Feng Wan's eyes. She knew that she had acted rashly. She should have opened the passageway and waited for the spirit cheese impact to calm down before rushing over. Now, she was undoubtedly courting death. Buzz! At this moment, a red light suddenly lit up at the location of her heart. The light was like a flame that covered her entire body. This is... Feng Wan was slightly stunned. A smile slowly appeared on her face. This is the third life you've saved me. She looked ahead and slowly squeezed into the passage under the flame. After Feng Wan entered, the impact of the spiritual energy did not close. Once the passage between the two worlds was opened, it would be difficult to close it, especially under the impact of the spiritual energy. The impact of the spiritual energy would only disappear when the spiritual energy on Earth was on par with the spiritual energy on the supernatural continent. A day later, when Wang Xian came out from the Dragon Palace, his mind suddenly stirred. His gaze was fixed on the position of the dragon array in the Dragon Palace, and his eyes were sparkling. The spiritual energy has changed. It is getting stronger every moment. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes and quietly sensed the changes in the spiritual energy. He stayed in the Dragon Palace. The spiritual energy here was 12 times that of the outside world, so the changes in the spiritual energy were very obvious. Now that the spiritual energy was increasing at a terrifying speed, it was unexpected that the spiritual energy in the outside world had also undergone a huge change. His body moved, and he arrived outside the Dragon Palace. He felt the fluctuation of the spiritual energy and looked towards the west. Following the concentration of the spiritual energy, Wang Xian flew in this direction. Hiss! When he arrived at the 10,000-meter deep trench at the bottom of the sea, Wang Xian stared ahead and took a deep breath. What a terrifying spiritual energy! I even have a feeling of not being used to it here. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and noticed that there were numerous corpses floating around. Spiritual energy was a great tonic for every living creature. However, if one replenished too many good things, it could also make one die. It was just like an ordinary person who consumed a grade 8 elixir. Not only would they not improve their cultivation, but they would also die. The terrifying spiritual energy impact would kill the living creatures. This spiritual energy impact was not like the spiritual energy waterfall when the 9 cauldrons appeared. Compared to the spiritual energy impact, the spiritual energy waterfall was like a small stream, and this was a vast ocean. It should be Feng Wan who opened the passage between the two worlds, allowing the spiritual energy of the transcendent world to flood into Earth. According to Feng Wan, the spiritual energy of the transcendent continent is 50 times more than here. In other words, the spiritual energy on Earth is equal to that of the supernatural continent. And the area of the supernatural continent is 100 times larger than Earth. The territory of the Feng dynasty was equivalent to the size of Earth. This is a great opportunity for Earth, and it is also a great opportunity for humans on Earth. In the future, Earth will officially transition from the era of technology to the era of cultivation. Wang Xian took a deep breath. The real-world change was about to begin. The spiritual energy around here is the most terrifying. However, the effect of cultivating here will be very poor. Under the impact of the spiritual energy, it might even damage one's body. The Dragon Palace is just right and not too far away. There is also the Dragon Palace array. There is no need to move the Dragon Palace here. Next, we will enter the Dynasty of Evolution. I didn't expect that this incident was because of the Empress. Wang Xian smiled. The impact of the spiritual energy this time was of great benefit to the Dragon Palace. It could shorten the gap between the Dragon Palace and the supernatural continent. In the next period of time, all members of the Dragon Palace cultivate quickly. Wang Xian's figure moved and returned to the Dragon Palace. He immediately announced that all the members of the Dragon Palace had started to cultivate in seclusion. Currently, there were aquatic creatures breaking through the Dragon Gate every day to become members of the Dragon Palace. After that, when the dragon caves in the dragon pool had gathered to a certain extent, the more outstanding members of the Dragon Palace would be allowed to enter the dragon pool. They would be allowed to choose the direction of evolution. They would be allowed to evolve into demon monkeys, strange demons, golden swordfish, yakshas, and thunder prawns. This would allow the few races to continuously increase their combat strength. The business of the Dragon Gate forging workshop was getting worse by the day. Wang Xian decided to close it down, and everyone went into seclusion to cultivate. Wang Xian even called Xiao Yu over and asked her to go into seclusion to cultivate. The rich spiritual energy gradually covered the entire earth. This made all the forces and immortals look excited. Even the ordinary people were excited when they heard that the spiritual energy on earth was increasing. The great cultivation era was coming. The Eastern Immortal sect began to recruit disciples because they did not need to worry about resources now. The powerful spiritual energy was enough to maintain their cultivation. In the West, the Divine Realm's spirit locking array was directly opened. In the past, the Divine Realm was not for outsiders to obtain because it was used to seal off spiritual energy. However, the spiritual energy in the outside world was already more abundant than the spiritual energy inside. The spirit locking array was used to counter-suppress the spiritual energy. The true appearance of Asgard. All the people were martial artists. Chapter 839. First Change of the Divine Dragon. Ha ha ha, I am the Thunder Immortal, the immortal god of the G-Clan. All beings come to worship me. I am Ling Tian Xian, the immortal god of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect. I am Xian Yuan, a sword that breaks mountains, Xian Yuan Broken Mountains, the Xian Yuan clan. I am the supreme of the boundless four directions, the Yuan clan. Time slowly passed. In a month's time, the spiritual energy had calmed down, and the spiritual energy on Earth had reached a terrifying level. 50 times the amount of spiritual energy on Earth, 50 times the amount on Earth in the past. To those cultivators, this was simply a great opportunity that had fallen from the heavens. 2 months. In just 2 months, the Huaxia Immortal Sect had increased by 10 immortal gods. Those half-step immortal gods with powerful and deep foundations finally obtained an opportunity under this terrifying spiritual energy. They took the final step and stepped into the immortal god realm. It was not only the Huaxia Immortal Sect, but also the divine realm. It didn't take long for some experts to become gods and obtain divine seats. This was the best ERA for warriors. We can hear the voices of immortal gods every day. They are really high profile. Yes, yes. Each of them is extremely arrogant. Humph, they don't know how to be low profile at all. Inside the Dragon Palace, a group of girls pouted and said disdainfully when they heard the faint immortal voice. The human world is very interesting now. In the past, we used to call each other Brother Tai, but now we call each other fellow Taoists. How interesting. In the past, we practiced martial arts, but now we call ourselves immortal cultivators. Because in this era, everyone has the chance to become immortal, so we call each other fellow Taoists directly. Haha. That voice just now belonged to that guy, Fengling Tian. Xiao Yu, hee, I haven't seen you for 2 months. Do you miss him? Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and the other girls teased. Even Tang Yinxian joined in. Regardless of how the girls were like in the past, they gathered together every day now. Everyone was more lively. All right, sisters-in-law, Big Brother is about to break through. Xiao Yu's face was slightly red. She quickly spoke to them and looked at Wang Xian, who was in the middle of the Dragon King Palace. Apart from them, all the members of the entire Dragon Palace were gathered around. The 80 immortal gods in the Dragon King Palace were standing there respectfully. In the outside world, the group of people from the Immortal Sect's divine realm had broken through to the Immortal God realm. In the Dragon Palace, the speed of their breakthrough was even more terrifying. Now in the outside world, The spirit gathering array was basically useless because of the rich spiritual energy. With the low-level spirit gathering array on Earth, it was no longer enough to gather spiritual energy. But the Dragon Palace was different. The spiritual energy density in the Dragon King Palace was still 12 times that in the outside world, and the Dragon Cave was 8 times that in the outside world. Under this terrifying increase, the Dragon Palace had dozens of immortal gods in just 2 months. With time, the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace could reach hundreds or even thousands. Therefore, when the group of girls heard the news of him being a god, they found it a little funny. Finally, I'm going to break through. Wang Xian looked at the dragon energy that was only a few hundred away, and his eyes were filled with excitement. He had finally completed the first change of the Divine Dragon. He was finally going to take the first step into the Divine Dragon, which was also the most important step. Originally, a Divine Dragon would possess the strength of the first transformation when he was born. However, due to the system, he needed to cultivate on his own. In other words, entering the first transformation of the Divine Dragon was equivalent to becoming a newborn Divine Dragon. Roar. Breakthrough. The moment the dragon energy reached 1 billion, Wang Xian's body turned into 15 meters in size. Ding! The spiritual energy has reached 1 billion. The first transformation of the Divine Dragon has been completed. Your level has increased, and you have advanced to transcendence. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the first transformation of the Divine Dragon. The system has been upgraded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the first transformation of the Divine Dragon and comprehending the supernatural powers. Ding! The host is the Divine Dragon of the 5 elements and has comprehended the supernatural powers of the 5 elements. Ding! The system has all been upgraded. Upgrading in progress. At this moment, a series of system notifications rang out. It was the first time Wang Xian had heard the system talk so much. It was also the first time he felt that this was a freaking system. At this very moment, Wang Xian's body underwent a huge transformation. His body grew from 15 meters to 25 meters. His body was emitting a 5-colored glow: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Finally, the 5-colored glow slowly blended together and formed a circular shape. Boom! A terrifying energy burst out from Wang Xian's body. It was a suppressive and endless suppressive force. His golden head was extremely sacred. 6 fiery red dragon whiskers were emitting a dazzling luster. His golden claws were emitting a terrifying sharpness, as though they could tear apart the starry sky. The earthen yellow dragon scales were emitting a thick and heavy aura, giving off an indestructible feeling. At his abdomen, the green radiance was extremely dazzling. A rich vitality was spreading throughout his body. Her aqua-blue tail was filled with intelligence. The 5-elemental Divine Dragon. This terrifying aura was several times stronger than when the Empress, Feng Luan, had advanced. If she were still here, she would probably be filled with shock. 5 elemental divine abilities: burning the river and boiling the sea, shattering the void with gold, descending of the wood world, water crisis, and the wrath of the earth. Wang Xian slowly opened his eyes. The golden glow flickered with an icy cold sharpness. Ding! The system upgrade is completed. The ancestor of all trees, Ancestral Tree, has comprehended the supernatural ability Soul Capture, Endless Vision, and Spirit Possession. Name: Wang Xian. Race: 5 elements Divine Dragon, able to transform into a human. Level: Extraordinary First Level, first change of the Divine Dragon transformation. Dragon Crystal, 0 out of 100. Supernatural ability: ruling the water tribe that is lower than one's own level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method: Divine Dragon transformation. Avatar: burn the river and boil the sea, break the void, descend the wood realm, storm the city with water, fury of the earth, soul capture, endless eyes, spirit possession. Dragon Palace, level 2. Dragon Palace members, 2655. Ding. System mission activated. Main mission. Rule the Ocean of Worlds, build the Dragon Palace of Worlds, and restore the glory of the Divine Dragon. Ding. The system has issued a mission to unify the Earth's ocean. Reward. Thorn Dragon Species. Ding. The system shopping mall has been activated. Boom. At this moment, Wang Xian's mind seemed to have exploded. A terrifying scene appeared in his mind. A huge battle, a terrifying battle. Thousands of divine dragons and countless members of the Dragon Palace were engaged in a battle against the densely packed and endless bug race. A sea of bugs, an endless sea of bugs. Blood flowed like a river, and the battle erupted. There was no sky, no earth, and only an endless void. This battle could no longer be described as tragic. Hong. In the end, the endless sea of bugs was destroyed, and thousands of divine dragons and members of the Dragon Palace were also killed and injured. My divine dragon clan, exterminating the world bug clan, is a great merit. One day, the invincible divine dragon, the invincible clan, will rule the ocean and become the master of the oceans. A voice rang in his mind. Soon after, he saw a drop of blood condensed from the blood on the battlefield. It traveled through time and space and disappeared. Oh! At this moment, Wang Xian slowly regained his senses. His face was filled with shock and joy. Chapter 840. The Real System. The Real System. To be precise, the system that Wang Xian obtained in the past did not wake up at all. Just like him, he had not even reached the level of a newborn divine dragon. Now, after he had completed the first transformation of the divine dragon, the system could be considered to have truly woken up. Furthermore, he had some understanding of this system from the scene in his mind. Those divine dragons of the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th transformations had already fallen in the battle with the insect race. The insect race, Wang Xian vaguely understood from the divine dragon transformation that this was a race that destroyed the world. They were born to kill and devour. This race was extremely terrifying. Even the top races in the universe had to be afraid of them. There were not many top races in the universe. The only race that could fight against the insect race was the divine dragon race. For some reason, the divine dragon race had a war with the insect race. The insect race was exterminated, and only the weak or impure divine dragons of the divine dragon race were still alive. However, the dragon gods of the divine dragon race who had reached the 9 transformations of the divine dragon had created a system. It could be said to be a system, or it could also be said to be a divine weapon that assisted the growth of the divine dragon. There was a weapon spirit inside the divine weapon. This weapon spirit didn't have any emotions, only the rules that the dragon gods had established. This was also to prevent other powerful races from intercepting the supreme treasures belonging to the Dragon God clan. From the picture in his mind, he got a message from the mouths of the dragon gods. A dragon god of the Dragon God clan owned a dragon palace. The members of the dragon palace were different from each dragon in the dragon palace. If they had prepared earlier and formed the most perfect army, they would not have died together with the bug clan. Now, in this system, there was not only the treasures of the dragon gods of the dragon palace, but also a supreme treasure. This supreme treasure was the foundation of the bug clan. It was also the most powerful place of the bug clan, which was the bug nest. However, the bug nest was modified by the dragon gods and turned into a dragon pool. As long as they had subordinates and energy, the dragon palace could create powerful members of the dragon palace without limit. This was also the reason why the last voice said that there would come a day when the invincible divine dragon and the invincible dragon god clan would rule the oceans of the myriad realms. Now, the system will release missions and reward items. Similarly, there is also a system store which can be exchanged for items collected by the group of divine dragons. In the future, the elevation of the dragon palace will be easier. The elevation of my strength will also be easier. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he thought of the changes in his attributes. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elemental divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, Extraordinary first level, first change of the Divine Dragon Transformation. Dragon Crystal, 0 out of 100. Supernatural ability. Ruling the Water Tribe that is lower than one's level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Divine ability, burn the river and boil the sea. Gold crack the void, descend of the wood realm. Water danger storm city. Wrath of the earth, soul capture, endless sight, spirit possession. Dragon Palace, level 2. Dragon Palace members, 2,655. Level change to Transcendent level 1. The first transformation of the Divine Dragon Transformation. The dragon chi disappeared and turned into dragon crystals. With 8 divine abilities, burn the river and boil the sea as fire dragon AoE attack. Gold crack the void as gold dragon AoE attack. Can also attack single target. Descend of the wood realm as green dragon AoE attack. Water danger storm city as water dragon AoE attack. The fury of the earth was an area of effect attack from the earth dragon. As for the soul-absorbing, endless sight, and spirit-attaching divine abilities, they came from the soul-returning wood, endless wood, and the tree of servitude. Soul-absorbing. The eyes could absorb souls, the souls of the members of the Dragon Palace, and the souls of other people. After absorbing them, they could obtain information about them. They could also put them on the soul-returning wood and resurrect them. Endless eyes was an eye bloodline technique. Wherever one looked, they would directly attack with flames. Moreover, the flames would never be extinguished. It was an extremely terrifying eye bloodline technique. As for the spirit-attaching ability of the Changshu, it could make a plant have spirituality. The spirit-attaching ability could greatly enhance the cultivation of spiritual herbs and the use of the wood element in battles. Take the divine ability of the Descent of the Wood World as an example. After the spirit-attaching ability was released, all the trees in the wood world would have spirituality and burst out with even more terrifying power. Phew, with my current strength, even the current Empress is no match for me. Wang Xian's eyes revealed a look of confidence. Out of the 8 divine abilities, each one of them was extremely powerful. They could completely suppress existences of the same level. Feng Yuan had once said that after transcendence, there was a difference between the first stage and the second stage. The difference between the first stage and the second stage could be said to be the difference between the Dan stage and the infant stage. With his current strength, he could definitely fight against opponents of a higher level. Let's see what's in the system store. Wang Xian had a thought. Open the treasury. Ding. Host strength is the first change of the Divine Dragon Transformation. You can only check the treasures of the first change of the Divine Dragon Transformation. Elixirs, treasures, dragon seeds, formations, and materials. There were a total of 5 options. Wang Xian had a thought and opened the elixirs. Dragon Blood Pill. An extraordinary tier 3 item. After consuming it, the price will be increased by 10 dragon crystals. The exchange price will be 10 dragon crystals. 1,000-year-old Dragon Blood Herb. An extraordinary tier 3 item. After consuming it, the price will be increased by 11 dragon crystals. The exchange price will be 11 dragon crystals. Dragon. Wang Xian had completely lost interest after scanning through 2 of them. Consuming it would increase the price by 10 dragon crystals. The exchange price would be 10 dragon crystals. His brain was pumping as he tried to exchange for this. It seems like these elixirs are meant to upgrade the items of the members of the Dragon Palace. That's not right. With the Dragon Pond around, it's not of much use to the members of the Dragon Palace. It's useless. Wang Xian shook his head in disappointment and opened the treasure column. There were more items in the treasure column. There were a few thousand of them. There were gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, and dark spirit pearls which could be cultivated into dragon pearls. However, the price was too high, at least 100 dragon crystals. There were also some protective items, such as necklaces, bracelets, dragon scales, and some attack-type dragon teeth and claws. There were also pill furnaces and weapon forging tables. The items inside weren't very useful to him. Being at the top of the universe, The divine dragon's true form was extremely powerful, and they could use very few weapons. When he opened the dragon seed, he found out that it was the most precious treasure in the treasure. Thorn dragon seed. Known to be the strongest assassination dragon seed. Mad dragon seed. Known to be the strongest combat dragon seed. Imperial dragon seed. Known to be the strongest defense dragon seed. Arrow dragon seed. Known to be the strongest long-range attack dragon seed. There weren't many dragon species. There were 15 of them, and they were the subordinates of the strongest dragon palace in the Dragon God Dragon Palace. These were the dragon species that the dragon god had painstakingly nurtured, and each of them was no weaker than the dragon god. They were the strongest in assassination, single combat, defense, long-range attack, support, fire element, water element, and the other 7 elements. Once these dragon species were all cultivated, they would be absolutely invincible. However, to cultivate one of these dragon species, they would need a large amount of dragon blood. Chapter 841. Invitation Card. The rarity of a dragon seed could be said to be the backbone of the entire Dragon Palace. It was where the power of the Dragon Palace lay. However, in the system, there was no price for a dragon seed. In other words, it was not something that he could buy at the moment. After completing the mission of ruling the Earth's oceans, he would be able to obtain a dragon seed, the Thorn Dragon Seed. The Thorn Dragon Seed was known to be the strongest dragon seed in the Dragon Palace for assassination. I wonder how it compares to the strange demon clan. Wang Xian thought to himself. In the current Dragon Palace, he felt that the Golden Swordfish clan and the Strange Demon clan had the greatest potential. Especially the Strange Demon clan. He could definitely threaten existences of a higher level than him. There were many formations and materials in the treasure trove, but these were not things that he could use. Wang Xian took a glance and turned them off immediately. Dominate the Earth's oceans. Wang Xian looked ahead with his eyes shining. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they could completely dominate the entire Earth's oceans. However, I can still wait for now. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and revealed a smile. He could definitely wait for now. Now that the spiritual energy from the supernatural continent had just poured into Earth, it was time for the creatures in the oceans to benefit. Especially those powerful creatures, they might be able to reach the immortal level soon. At that time, he could completely reap the harvest. Submit or die. If he submitted, the Dragon Palace would gain a group of powerful subordinates. And if he killed them, he could use their dragon blood to cultivate a group of subordinates. It was a perfect solution. Brother, you've made a breakthrough. Xiao Xian, have you made a breakthrough? Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing, and the other girls ran over and asked Wang Xian excitedly. Yes. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. He swept his gaze across the girls and said, Next, all of you have to cultivate well. Try to complete the first change as soon as possible and reach the Transcendence realm. Only Transcendence can truly step into cultivation. Don't worry. In a year or 2 at most, we will be able to break through to the Transcendence realm. Let's go and celebrate. Xiao Yu and the rest walked happily into the Dragon King's bedroom. Wang Xian smiled. In the following period of time, Wang Xian and the rest stayed in the Dragon Palace and began to train again. In 2 to 3 days, one member of the Dragon Palace advanced to the immortal level. Wang Xian did not pay attention to the changes on land. During this period of time, he dealt with the situation in the Dragon Palace. Preaching, patrolling the ocean, and cultivating. Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing, and a few other girls accompanied Wang Xian every day. Only Xiao Yu went out for a period of time from time to time. Even her cultivation was abandoned. Wang Xian smiled at this and did not stop her. Xiao Yu was already 23 or 24 years old. Even a girl as old as her hometown had a child. Now that he thought about it, Xiao Yu was already at the age to get married. Time passed slowly. A year might not be long, but to the Dragon Palace and the entire Earth, it was a huge change. Brother, Wang Xian was playing with Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and the rest in the bedroom when Xiaoyu ran in and shouted at him. Hey, Xiaoyu is back from her date with her lover. How rare. She has been away for almost a month. Guan Shuqing teased Xiaoyu. I hate sister-in-law. It hasn't even been a month yet. Brother, this is an invitation from the Yuan clan. They asked me to pass it to you. Xiaoyu took a card and handed it to Wang Xian. What invitation? What's the matter? Wang Xian took the invitation card. It was an invitation card, and he asked curiously, Yu Wenhua from the Yuan clan is getting married to the daughter of the celestial king of the Nordic divine realm. He is going to get married and has invited all the forces on earth. Naturally, he will also invite you, brother. Xiaoyu walked over with a smile and held Wang Xian's arm as she said, A marriage alliance? I really didn't expect that. They should all be immortals, right? Yes, Yuan Hua's cultivation has reached the realm of immortals. Oh right, brother, your disciple, Xiaoran, has also reached the realm of immortals a few days ago. Xiaoyu introduced to Wang Xian, Do you want to go out this time? You've been in the sea for a year. Go and take a look at what's happening outside. The changes outside are very, very great. Now, the Eastern and Western immortal sects and the divine realm have basically merged together. This marriage alliance between the Northern European divine realm, the strongest force in the West, and the Yuan clan is considered to be of historical significance. It's time to go out and take a look. As for whether we should go or not, we'll see when the time comes. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. Sister-in-law, let's go together. Now that the spiritual energy has impacted, the earth has changed a lot. It's very beautiful outside. Xiaoyu said to Guan Shuqing and the rest. All right, Xiaoyu. Should we let that Feng Lingtian come over to meet the parents? Elder brother is like a father. Guan Shuqing and the rest nodded with a smile. Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue this time and didn't refute. Let's go back to Jiang City to take a look first. Wang Xian thought for a moment and said, All right, let's see how the world outside is changing. Wang Xian and the rest flew out. Master! Just as they walked out of the Dragon Palace, a huge creature shouted at Lan Qingyue. Lan Qingyue flew over, touched its nose, and flew outside. Lan Qingyue's first Kuan had already reached 400 meters in size. As for her strength, she had already reached the first stage of transcendence. She was even stronger than Lan Qingyue. In the current Dragon Palace, other than Wang Xian, the second person to advance to transcendence was the Hydra Aoju. The third person was the Kuan. Secondly, in the current Dragon Palace, there were already more than 280 immortal level members. Among them, there were more immortal level members in the Strange Demon Clan. There were a total of 100 of them. There were also 30 members in the Golden Swordfish Clan. This time, there were 4 of them who were with Wang Xian. Ao Jian was an upper-level immortal, and there were 3 middle-level golden swordfish. As he flew toward Jiang City, Wang Xian saw the trees below. They were at least 40 to 50 meters tall and thick. The entire sky was blue as well. The impact of the spiritual energy had changed the surrounding environment. Earth had already switched from technology to cultivation. It was said that even the school had become an ancient martial arts academy. Everything was because of the Empress, Feng Wuan. This could also be considered as indirectly helping the humans on Earth to evolve. Rack! At this moment, shouts came from the sky. A few hundred people rode their horses and galloped over. This horse was not an ordinary horse, but a Pegasus. It was able to fly in the sky and possessed the strength of a Dan stage cultivator. The great changes in the world had benefited not only humans, but also some fierce beasts. Dan stage cultivators could fly in the sky, so there were many people flying in the sky. Some people were even riding on beasts. They were incomparably domineering. Haha, the group in front is the destination. We just happened to be asking for directions. A soft shout rang out, and the group immediately let out a loud roar as the Pegasus charged over. Boom, boom, boom. Hundreds of Pegasus gave off a feeling as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses charging over. Chapter 842. Didn't know who he was. Huh. Xiao Yu and the others rode their horses and flew toward them with a curious look on their faces. They are from the west. Looking at the color of their faces, Guan Shuqing immediately said. However, they didn't pay attention to her. They flew slowly while admiring the scenery around them. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the Pegasus flew toward the sky above them. Yu yu, ao ao ao. Suddenly, the terrified cries of horses could be heard. Fuck, what's going on? What's going on? Bang, what's going on? The screams of horses and the gasps of the crowd could be heard. The entire scene was extremely chaotic. Over 500 people were able to stabilize the Pegasus. The Pegasus roared in fear and agitation. Their bodies could not help but retreat backwards. Hee. Xiao Yu and the rest could not help but laugh when they saw the scene of the Pegasus falling from 1,000 meters in the sky. Earlier on, this group of people wanted to fly to the top of their heads on their Pegasus. However, when the Pegasus approached them, they felt a power that made their hearts palpitate. Animals had a very strong bloodline suppression, especially when the other party was stronger than them. Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, and the rest had already reached the first transformation of the Divine Dragon transformation, not to mention Wang Xian. Xiao Yu and the rest also possessed the bloodline of the Divine Dragon. This group of Pegasus didn't dare to ride on top of their heads. Their instinctive fear made them stop in fear. What's going on? At this moment, the sound of 2 horses' hooves stepping on the air was heard. A cold voice was heard. 2 horses slowly flew over. These 2 horses were extremely tall. There was a horn in the middle of their heads. They looked like divine beasts. A man and a woman sat on the horses. The man had long golden hair and was extremely handsome. The woman also had long golden hair. She had a proud expression on her face. Divine Son, we don't know either. When the Pegasus flew here just now, they suddenly stopped in fear. A girl rubbed the spot where her forehead touched and spoke to the young man and woman. The young man swept his gaze across the Pegasus and looked ahead slowly. When he saw that Wang Xian and the rest had left, his face was expressionless. Everyone in front, did you just leave after making fun of the people from the Roman celestial domain? Huh. When Wang Xian and the rest heard the voice from behind, they turned their heads around with a smile. We didn't make a move. Xiao Yu spread out her hands with a smile on her face. You guys are the only ones here. If you guys didn't make a move, could it be that there are others? The young man looked at them with an expressionless face. According to the 15th rule of the Roman celestial realm, anyone who offends the oracle core will have their arm chopped off. The golden-haired goddess raised her head slightly and announced the sentence. Their words caused Wang Xian and the rest to frown slightly. The people from the celestial domain have always been arrogant. Xiao Yu snorted coldly. She obviously knew something about the celestial domain. You don't know which immortal sect we are from? Guan Shuqing looked at them curiously. Xianyuan? Yuan or Beast Immortal Sect. Even if it's these 3 sects, you have to pay a little price for what you did just now. The young Divine Son said proudly. Hee, how interesting. Little Xian, no one knows you now. Guan Shuqing and the others felt very interesting when they heard the young Divine Son's words. It had only been more than a year, yet there were people who did not know the Dragon King. However, it made sense when they thought about it. This year was the year of the Earth's great change. There were many prodigies, and at most, an immortal would appear every week. The Dragon Palace had not appeared for more than a year. Furthermore, the other party was from the west, so he did not know Wang Xian at all. Now, the world did not recognize him. What price did you pay? Wang Xian asked in amusement. Looks like you guys are not from the 3 great immortal sects of China. Then, each of you shall have 1 arm. The blonde goddess landed on her Pegasus and looked down at the judge. As she spoke, she moved her arm and a sharp gemstone sword appeared in her hand. She said indifferently, Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it? I'll do it. At this moment, a golden swordfish behind Wang Xian said coldly. The moment he finished speaking, he started to move. A radius of 4 to 5 kilometers was filled with beams of golden light. These beams of golden light seemed to cut through the entire space. "Let's go." Wang Xian took a glance indifferently and continued flying forward. Xiaoyu, Guan Shuqing, and the rest looked at him mockingly. The people of the divine realm call themselves gods in the West and are worshipped by others. However, when they come to the East, they have to keep a low profile. Xiaoyu said with slight disdain. My arm." At this moment, a terrified scream came from behind. No, my arm." All of their faces were filled with shock. They stared in disbelief at their right arm. Over 500 people had their right arms chopped off. How is this possible, However, the two divine sons and goddesses seated on the two enormous Pegasus had cold sweat on their foreheads, and their eyes were filled with terror. Their right arms were also completely empty. In an instant attack. A god, or at least a god, he actually dares to directly attack us. The two sealed the wounds on their arms, gritting their teeth as they spoke in terror. They hadn't expected that their opponent would actually be an immortal god, and a god who was even stronger than them. If they had known, they wouldn't have spoken out about the trial, and they wouldn't have been so arrogant. However, the other party actually dared to directly cut off one of their arms without any mercy. This made their faces incomparably gloomy. Damn it. He actually dared to directly cut off all of our arms. I want my father to kill them. The young divine son roared in a sinister and low voice. They were only divine sons who had just advanced to a mortal god. Having their arms cut off, they needed a large number of medicinal pills to recover. Besides them, there were also a group of experts from the Roman celestial domain who had their arms cut off. If all of them recovered, it would be a considerable amount of resources. The Western gods were basically the descendants of gods. In other words, it was very likely that their ancestors had gods, and their descendants would have a chance to become gods. It was even more so now. Divine sons were the descendants of gods. They cultivated to become gods and did not inherit the divine throne. The expression of the goddess beside him changed drastically. As the descendant of the god of beauty and love, she was very concerned about her image. Now, one of her arms had been chopped off. In the grand scene that followed, wouldn't it be embarrassing for her mother? Just you wait. The goddess gritted her teeth. Her expression was a little ferocious. Wang Xian did not pay much attention to the small episode just now. At this moment, the so-called gods were just some people with strong cultivation. On Earth, they were immortals and deities. On the supernatural continent, they were just frogs in a well. Chapter 843, Meeting the Parents. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian did not dare to claim that he could sweep across the entire Earth. However, it would not be a problem for him to sweep across the entire Western divine realm. Therefore, when the goddess spoke about the judgment from above, the golden swordfish beside him would make a move without him saying a word. A mere lower immortal dared to be so arrogant. It was already a sign of forgiveness that he did not kill them directly. If there were people who dared to provoke the ancient emperors, their heads would have long fallen. Although Wang Xian was not an emperor now, he could already unify the earth if he wanted to be the king and dominate the world. After returning to Jiang City, great changes had taken place in the city. The environment had changed for the better, and the surrounding trees had grown taller. When they arrived in the city, there were more people flying in the sky. There were at least 1,000 people flying on swords. These people were at least at the Xiantian realm. In the past, a Xiantian master could suppress an entire region. Now, there were as many Xiantian masters as dogs. Let's call our old friends and have a chat. Wang Xian looked at the floating island in front of the villa. This floating island was given to Xiaoyu for him to play with. On it, the Azure Dragon and the other Draconids were taking care of it. The auction was still held normally. It could be considered one of the few properties of the Dragon Palace in the human world. Dragon King. A group of Draconids flew over. Wang Xian swept his gaze across them and revealed a faint smile on his face. 20 immortals. Not bad. As Wang Xian had been staying in the Dragon Palace, these draconids had been following Xiao Yu's orders. However, Xiao Yu did not need the draconids. Hence, they had been staying on the floating island. Call Old Shui, Old Qin, Old Wang, Dahai and the rest over. Tell them to come back and treat them to a meal. Wang Xian ordered Mo Qinglong. It's the Dragon King. The group of draconids nodded their heads respectfully. Xiao Yu, did you call that brat over? He took away my precious little sister. It's about time to meet him after such a long time. After Wang Xian gave his instructions, he said to Xiao Yu who was beside him. Brother, this? Xiao Yu was a little shy and didn't know what to say. Go. The matter of Feng Lingtian is a problem in the future. Soon, I will be going to another world. Therefore, the matters on Earth must be resolved as soon as possible. Wang Xian said to Xiao Yu with a serious tone this time. Entering the extraordinary mainland was inevitable. Whether Xiao Yu wanted to follow and how Feng Lingtian should deal with it were both troublesome matters. Whether Feng Lingtian should join the Dragon Palace or not, he would have to make a decision when the time came. All right, brother. Xiao Yu also put away her willfulness and nodded. She was also conflicted about the future. She was 100% unwilling to leave her brother who had been protecting her. However, she did not wish to be separated from Feng Lingtian either. Then I'll make a trip to the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect, Xiao Yu said to Wang Xian. Don't go. Let them come over. Wang Xian said directly. Xiao Yu stuck out her tongue when she heard her brother cut her off. She knew her brother's intention. She and Feng Lingtian were on two different levels. Speaking of which, Feng Lingtian was on a higher level. Naturally, Wang Xian couldn't let his sister suffer. He wouldn't let her suffer in the future either. Naturally, he had to show some dignity. All right, brother. Don't worry. Lingtian wouldn't dare to make me angry, Xiao Yu said with a smile. Wang Xian smiled with a straight face. All right, I'll accompany Shuqing and Qingyue for a stroll. You settle your own matters first. Following that, Wang Xian accompanied Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, and the rest to their home. He also sent someone to invite Tang Yinchuan's family over. The few girls would be members of the Dragon Palace in the future. Naturally, he had to make some arrangements. Then, he chatted with his two old friends in Jiang City. 2 days passed by quickly. On the morning of the third day, a group of people welcomed them from the floating island, brother, Lingtian, his father, and the people from the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect are here. Xiao Yu said to Wang Xian with a slightly red face. Let's go out and take a look. Wang Xian smiled and nodded. Xiao Yu held his shoulder and walked out. In the leisure area of the floating island, there was a huge villa. In front of the villa was an empty space with a pond in the middle. At this moment, at the entrance, a group of over 200 people were standing on the ground in front of them. 6 immortals. Wang Xian swept his gaze over. The foundation of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect was not bad. There were already 6 immortals, and Xiao Ran was among them. Sect leader Ling Xiao had also reached the upper immortal realm. Dragon King. Ling Xiao immediately cupped his hands respectfully when he saw Wang Xian coming out. Although Wang Xian was Xiao Yu's brother, his elder brother was like a father. They were of equal seniority. However, in terms of strength, the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect was still far behind. Even the current Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect was still very weak compared to the Dragon Palace. He had never dared to imagine that his son could climb up to the Dragon King's sister. Haha, Sect leader Ling, everyone, please come in. Wang Xian extended his hand and greeted them. Dragon King, sorry to bother you. Ling Xiao smiled but was still a little reserved. After all, the person in front of him was a terrifying existence who had destroyed the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. Feng Lingtian followed by the side nervously and secretly looked at Xiao Yu. His father was cautious, so he was even more nervous. The person in front of him was the Dragon King. Wang Xian saw Xiao Ran beside them and waved his hand. Master. Xiao Ran immediately walked over and said respectfully. Xiao Ran was the disciple of the Dragon King. Everyone in the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect knew about this. Otherwise, even if Xiao Ran's talent was extraordinary, he would not have stepped into the immortal realm. The resources of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect were biased towards him. Even if Xiao Ran was an outsider, no one in the entire immortal sect dared to say anything. On the contrary, they wanted nothing more than to nurture Xiao Ran properly. However, Xiao Ran did not disappoint. He had already reached the immortal realm at the age of 19. "You've grown a lot taller." Wang Xian patted Xiao Ran, who was shoulder to shoulder with him. Some things had changed, but people had changed. The little guy who was 1.6 meters tall had now grown taller. Hee hee. Xiao Ran smiled foolishly. His eyes were filled with gratitude. "Where's your ancestor?" "In the past, he took Shu Qing as his disciple. In the past, your master's wife was in a coma. Now, you have to thank him properly." Wang Xian asked Xiao Ran. "Master, ancestor didn't follow us in the celestial sect. Should I inform him?" Xiao Ran said immediately. "There's no need. Your master's wife will go there herself. I'll give you some pointers on your cultivation later." "Yes, it's master." Xiao Ran nodded excitedly. After entering the hall, Wang Xian gestured to Ling Xiao and the others. Ao Jian and the other three stood by the side with their swords in hand. Mo Qinglong and the other draconids immediately prepared tea. Xiao Ran also stood by Wang Xian's side. When the remaining 3 immortals from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect saw this scene, they stood by the side obediently and did not dare to sit down. Since the others did not sit down, Feng Lingtian did not dare to sit down either. He stood by his father's side. It was too restrictive. Nowadays, although the number of immortals had increased by 2 to 3 times, they were still immortals after all. They would be honored guests wherever they went. However, in the Dragon King's place, the immortals served tea and stood by the side to protect him. Chapter 844, Grand Wedding. For the first time, the immortal gods of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect had the illusion that even the immortal gods were inferior to them. It was absolutely impossible for a dignified immortal god to serve tea and pour water at the side. The immortal gods were high and mighty, revered by tens of thousands of people, and worshipped by everyone. Now, they didn't even have the right to sit down. They glanced at the few immortal gods. In the entire room, there were 6 immortal gods. 1 stood by the door, 1 served tea and poured water, and 4 sword-wielding immortal gods stood on both sides of the sofa. This sort of casual display was not something their Yellow Heaven Immortal sect could compare to. The 3 immortal gods looked at each other, and a bitter smile appeared in their eyes. According to the Dragon Palace's original strength, the number of immortal gods in the Dragon Palace now would not be less than 30. There was a possibility of approaching 40 to 50 immortal gods. 40 to 50 was already very terrifying when one thought about it. Now, the number of immortal gods in the Xin Yuan clan was only 25 on the surface. Dragon King, these are some small gifts. Consider them gifts for our first meeting. There had to be a proper process. The first time they came, they had to prepare a gift. Wang Xian was not too domineering. After a simple discussion, they sat down and had a meal together. This was not considered a marriage engagement, nor was there any talk about marriage between a man and a woman. Perhaps Ling Xiao felt that he was not qualified to talk about this matter, so he did not say much. Wang Xian did not talk about this matter either. This was left to his sister to decide. The meal was considered to be a feast for both guests and hosts. In the afternoon, Wang Xian called Xiao Ran to the courtyard at the back. Phew! Seeing Wang Xian leave, Feng Lingtian heaved a heavy sigh of relief. Hee hee! Ling Xiao also felt relieved instantly. His gaze swept across Ao Jian and the rest who had left, and a bitter look appeared on his face. Sect Master, why do I feel so much pressure in front of the Dragon King? Even if he didn't release any aura, he still gives off a feeling of superiority. An immortal god said softly. Ling Xiao shook his head slowly. Of the 4 immortal gods of swordsmen just now, The one in the middle has the strength of a superior immortal, and the other three are middle immortals. The three immortal gods beside him widened their eyes in shock. In other words, just the four subordinates of the Dragon King could destroy their Yellow Heaven immortal sect. All right, let's not lose our manners here. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Yuan clan with the Dragon King, Ling Xiao said with a smile. He learned more from his son. For example, there were more than a dozen immortal gods on the floating island who listened to Xiao Yu's orders. Those immortal gods were once experts of the Dragon Gate. The strength of the Dragon Palace was definitely unfathomable. According to his estimation, there were at least 60 immortals. Your strength is not bad, but don't be arrogant. The so-called realm of immortals is not the peak. I will teach you a set of martial arts that can be cultivated to a higher realm. In the backyard, Wang Xian stood beside Xiao Ran and said to him. Xiao Ran's heart skipped a beat. He nodded his head heavily and asked, Master, what is above immortals? Above immortals are transcendence. Sit on the ground with your legs crossed. Wang Xian didn't say much. If he said too much, it would be bad for him and would affect his faith. There was no limit to cultivation. Xiao Ran immediately sat on the ground with his legs crossed. Wang Xian opened his mouth and the fire dragon bead appeared. It was a fire dragon pearl of the extraordinary level. In the past year, he had cultivated the fire dragon pearl and the wood dragon pearl to the first level of the extraordinary level. The water spirit pearl was only at the level of a superior immortal. The consumption of cultivating the dragon pearl was still very high. He obtained the cultivation method from Fenghuan. A fire attribute cultivation method was also considered a top-notch cultivation method in the extraordinary continent. In the system treasury, there were also fire attribute attacks, but the exchange price was too high. After imparting the cultivation method to Xiao Ran, the fire dragon pearl's majestic flames began to refine his body. Now, Wang Xian's strength was much higher than his. He could completely refine his body. After some refinement, Xiao Ran's strength had faintly reached the level of a middle-level immortal. It might not take long for him to achieve a breakthrough. For a person who had just entered the immortal god realm, it was as if he had eaten a divine medicine. When the immortals from the Yellow Heaven immortal sect saw Xiao Ran, their eyes widened in disbelief. This made them feel that the Dragon King was simply unfathomable and had probably reached an even higher realm. Dragon King, this marriage between the Yuan clan and the daughter of the Scandinavian god realm's god king can be said to involve all the powerful forces in the East and West. The Scandinavian god realm is the most powerful god realm in the West, and the Yuan clan is one of the top existences in the East. Therefore, this marriage has formed a terrifying alliance. In the past, the Yuan clan and the Scandinavian god realm had some cooperation. After the marriage, in the entire East, no one dared to provoke the Yuan clan. In the West, the Scandinavian god realm is an invincible existence. They will be the largest joint force on Earth. Therefore, for this wedding, all the immortal sects and immortal gods will come to congratulate us. Even all the god realms in the Western god realm will have immortal gods come to hold the wedding for the bride. The next afternoon, everyone flew toward the Yuan clan. Wang Xian initially did not want to go, but Xiao Yu wanted to drag him over. She made it sound like she wanted to get married in the future and that she could learn from the experiences of others when she wanted to get married. Wang Xian could not persuade her, so he followed her over. The relationship between the Yuan clan and the Dragon Palace had some conflicts in the past. However, after exchanging the artifact of the Celestials for the Array formation, their relationship eased up a little. It could be considered as an ordinary relationship. Does such a force still need a marriage alliance? Wang Xian smiled. It can't be considered a marriage alliance. Yuan Hua of the Yuan clan is in love with the daughter of the God King of the Northern European Divine Territory. This has further increased the concern between them. Currently, they are the strongest in the entire Earth. Ling Xiao continued to speak to Wang Xian. Wang Xian smiled and nodded slowly. This time, he came with the idea of learning experience. He might need it in the near future. It's just ahead. Half an hour later, Ling Xiao pointed in front of him. Wang Xian looked over. There were huge balloons floating in the sky. The mountains and trees below were decorated with festive streamers. In the ancient city beside them, there were even lanterns and streamers. Groups of Yuan clan's disciples were flying in the sky to organize the order. Flying was prohibited. The entire scene was extremely huge. Western faces could be seen everywhere. There were even some cute and festive-looking Swiss. It was known as the grandest wedding of the century. It would be held today. Everyone from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect, please follow me. A celestial being from the Yuan clan noticed their arrival and immediately came to welcome them. When he saw Wang Xian, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he quickly greeted the Dragon King respectfully. Dragon King, sect leader Ling, please come in, please come in. The attitude of this celestial being from the Yuan clan had obviously changed a lot. He respectfully brought them to the wedding venue. Chapter 845. Enemies on a Narrow Road. The wedding venue was in the air. That's right, it was in the air. 200 meters high in the air. It was level with the surrounding mountains. A water blue energy supported all the objects. This was the power of the formation. The surrounding mountains had all kinds of trees and flowers, making the surroundings exceptionally beautiful. In the center, there was a huge spring, spraying water, making the entire wedding venue seem like a dream. On the array formation, there were tables placed, and the entire wedding scene could gather 2,000 to 3,000 people. On the surrounding mountain peaks, there were also many tables and chairs placed, causing those who didn't have the qualifications to enter to have a viewing area. Wow, it's so beautiful. Xiao Yu looked at his surroundings with a face full of shock. There were even some flower petals at his feet that were filled with romance. In the future, we will build a formation that is even higher than theirs. It will be at a height of 1,000 meters. Feng Lingtian whispered from the side. Are you going to fly into the sky? Xiao Yu rolled her eyes at him and said with a smile. Hee, our Yellow Heaven Immortal sect also has a formation. We can totally support a place that is 1,000 meters high. I don't want it. I will get my brother to set it up on the ocean. The ocean is so beautiful. Xiao Yu and Feng Lingtian were chatting while Wang Xian scanned his surroundings. At this moment, more than 1,000 people had arrived at the wedding venue. There were immortals from the various immortal sects, as well as those from the Western Divine Realm. As he scanned his surroundings, he discovered at least 80 to 90 immortals. 80 to 90 immortals was not a small number. There would be at least 100, or even 200 immortals present today. This was almost equivalent to half of the power of the entire Earth. The marriage between two powerful forces has attracted the attention of the entire world. All the immortals from the major immortal sects will be here. Ling Zhao's gaze swept across the sect leaders of the immortal sects around him, especially those immortal sects that were not very strong. They had mobilized almost all the immortals to show their respect. After this marriage, the Yuan clan was definitely in existence that no force could afford to offend. Dragon King, we will send a gift. Are you going? Ling Xiao said to Wang Xian. Since you are here, I will naturally send you a gift. Wang Xian nodded his head lightly. The wedding ceremony this time was still a continuation of the ancient Chinese tradition. There was a separate place to collect gifts. Wang Xian and Ling Xiao walked over. Many immortals from the immortal sects were sending gifts. Feng Yin Immortal Sect presents a grade 9 spiritual herb, concentric flower. Immortal Slaying Sect presents a whetstone. The Ji clan presents a celestial artifact. Wang Xian and Ling Xiao came inside and heard voices. All of them are spiritual artifacts that are on par with immortals. This gift is really valuable. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and said plainly. The other immortal sects will naturally want to express their goodwill when these two major forces are in a marriage alliance. Therefore, the gifts can be comparable to a spirit weapon of the level of immortals. Ling Xiao said softly at the side. Wang Xian smiled faintly. He didn't really care about the level of immortal weapons. A year ago, the members of the Dragon Palace discovered a metal mine. Wang Xian used level 13 metal materials to forge a lot of immortal weapons. However, Wang Xian didn't think much of this celestial artifact now. This item was far inferior to transcendent-level weapons. He casually took out a hairpin. The effect was useless. It was useless as a weapon and couldn't be used as a defense. It was just that it looked better and the materials were more precious. However, in terms of materials, it was indeed a celestial artifact. Wang Xian was not here to show his goodwill. He simply gave her an item that was not valuable but could be used. This hairpin was refined by Shu Qing. Feng Luan had imparted all her experience in refining artifacts and elixirs to her. Now, Shu Qing's skills in refining artifacts and elixirs were also very strong. "It's you. Damn that guy. He's from the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect." At this moment, a voice was heard through gritted teeth. "Huh." Wang Xian, Ling Xiao, and the rest raised their eyebrows slightly and turned their heads to look. Enemies have a narrow road. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the young man and woman, and a faint sneer appeared on his face. "Mind your words. Last time, it was your arm. Next time, it will be your dog life." Ao Jian, who was standing behind Wang Xian, swept his gaze across the two of them coldly. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. "Your puny Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect actually dared to provoke our Roman celestial domain. I think you are courting death." The young divine son's face was extremely gloomy. 3 days ago, his arm had been chopped off. They could only go back the way they came. Although their arms had been healed, the rest of the disciples were still recuperating. The reason why they came again this time was firstly to attend the wedding. Most importantly, it was to find the murderer. Revenge. However, what he didn't expect was that the other party was actually a member of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect. A small Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect actually dared to provoke them. Ling Xiao and a few immortals from the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect watched this scene in astonishment. They looked at Wang Xian and then at the young man and woman. This was probably a retard. He actually didn't know the Dragon King. More than a year ago, the Dragon King directly killed 8 immortals from the Garden of Eden. The other party didn't even dare to fart. Now, you actually dared to provoke him. Was he too stubborn, or was his brain damaged? Retard. Wang Xian shook his head in disdain and walked straight in. "Stop right there." His arm had been chopped off, and now he was being looked down upon. As the divine sons and goddesses of a region, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? They shouted coldly out of embarrassment and anger. "Huh." Some people around heard his cold shout and looked over curiously. In this situation, who was so rude? "Speak." Wang Xian, the son of God, paused for a moment and turned around to look at them impatiently. Then, he spat out a word coldly. "This is..." The immortals from the Fengyan Immortal Sect, the Ji Clan, and the other immortal sects were stunned when they saw Wang Xian. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. "It's the Dragon King. I didn't expect the Dragon King to be here. Today is Philomena's wedding. We won't touch you. After the wedding is over, you can just wait for your death." At this moment, another shocking voice came from the surroundings. All the immortals looked at the young man and woman, their faces filled with astonishment. Let the Dragon King wait for his death? Which divine realm are they from? How can they be so awesome? They actually let the Dragon King wait for his death. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. The person who said this to the Dragon King is already dead. It seems to be someone from the Roman celestial domain. There are more than 20 immortals in the Roman celestial domain. This time, more than a dozen immortals have come. He's really retarded. A person from the Roman celestial domain actually dares to provoke the Dragon King. When the surrounding immortals heard their words, their faces revealed mocking expressions. There were really people who didn't know death. Although the Dragon King and the Dragon Palace hadn't appeared for more than a year, no one doubted the strength of the Dragon Palace. How could a small Roman divine realm contend with them? The young divine son and goddess suddenly heard the discussions around them, and her face stiffened. Chapter 846. Dragon King. The expressions on their faces changed and then became interesting. They had never met the Dragon King, nor had they met the people from the Dragon Palace. They had only become immortals in the last year. But they also knew the name of the Dragon King, the only person who dared to directly kill the 8 gods of the divine realm. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace. The 8 gods of the Garden of Eden had been killed, and it had once caused a great commotion in the West. However, in the end, what surprised everyone in the divine realm was that the matter was finally settled. In the end, the people of the divine realm learned that the Dragon Palace was the most powerful force in the East. They had once dispatched 18 immortal gods to destroy 2 terrifying immortal sections. At that time, they had dispatched 2 high-level immortals to kill one of the other high-level immortals. When this news came out, it shocked all the divine realms. 2 high-level immortals and 18 immortal gods. There were not many people who could rival this power. Later, it was said that the Dragon King had subdued another high-level immortal, which shocked all the other forces again. With such terrifying strength, perhaps only the Nordic divine realm could suppress the Dragon Palace. They did not expect that they had provoked the most powerful force in the East, which made them feel terrified. Dragon King. At this moment, another wave came before the peace. The situation here attracted the attention of many people. A group of more than 20 immortals walked over with some of their children. In the middle, there was a burly old man. The old man stared at Wang Xian coldly, his eyes filled with killing intent. Mad God. It's Mad God, the leader of all the gods in the Garden of Eden, Mad God. Hiss, I didn't expect Mad God of the Garden of Eden to come here personally. Not only the divine realm of the Garden of Eden, there are also the gods of the ancient Greek divine realm. Everyone was slightly shocked again. Mad God, the leader of the gods in the Garden of Eden, was also one of the top experts of today. Seeing them staring at the Dragon King coldly, everyone understood. The Dragon King had killed 8 gods in the Garden of Eden back then. If you don't want to die, don't bother me. Wang Xian swept his gaze across all of them and said indifferently. Hiss. The corner of the mouth of the Mad God and all the surrounding gods could not help but twitch. Domineering as ever. Even someone as strong as the Mad God did not dare to say anything. The current Garden of Eden was far inferior to the Dragon Palace. They would only be able to fight against the Dragon Palace if they joined forces with the ancient Greeks. Everyone, today is the joyous day of our Yuan clan in the Northern European divine realm. I hope that everyone can give us some face. A few immortals from the Yuan clan saw the situation here and hurriedly walked over with cupped fists. The 2 middle-aged men looked at the Dragon King and cupped their fists to express their gratitude. Hee, thank you, Dragon King, for being able to attend our nephew's wedding despite your busy schedule. No need. Wang Xian shook his head lightly. It was not appropriate for him to cause trouble at someone else's wedding venue, even though there were a few people who were courting death. He walked to the place where he handed in the gifts and delivered them. Ling Xiao also delivered a celestial artifact that he had prepared. After delivering the gifts, Wang Xian and the rest walked out. At this moment, he felt something and looked to the side. When he looked over, he met a gaze that was filled with hatred. Wang Xian pondered for a moment and thought of this young man's name. It was Yu Wenyue, Yu Wenhua's younger brother. I didn't expect to meet so many people who have grudges against me. Wang Xian smiled gently. He didn't think much of it and sat down at the side. At this moment, Yu Wenyu was standing beside the 2 young divine sons and goddesses of the Roman divine territory. Brother Yu, what's wrong? Do you have a grudge with the Dragon King? The young divine son asked with a slightly embarrassed expression. Irreconcilable. Yu Wenyu's face was filled with grief and indignation, and her eyes were filled with frost. My fiancée was killed by the Dragon King's men. Yu Wenyu realized that she was too emotional. She took a deep breath and added, The The young divine son and goddess were slightly stunned and said with a sullen face, "It's a pity that the Dragon King is too powerful. Not long ago, he cut off the arms of all of us in the Roman divine realm. I'm really not reconciled to this grudge." "Okay." Sister-in-law asked me to call everyone over to gather. Yu calmed her mind and said to them. Then, she called over the young divine sons and goddesses from the Garden of Eden divine realm, ancient Greek divine realm, and other divine realms. The array was connected to a mountain peak in the middle of the east. This mountain peak was the tallest one around. One was surrounded by flowers and thorns, and there was a cave entrance in the middle. In a moment, the bride and groom would come out from this cave. The group entered the cave. The entire cave was abnormally wide, and it was filled with the divine sons and goddesses of God's domain. Miranda, Amy. The group entered the cave. In the middle of the cave, a Western beauty wearing Eastern clothing waved at the group of people who entered with a smile on her face. "Amy, you're late. Everyone else came 2 or 3 days ago." The Western beauty looked at the goddess and said with a smile, "I encountered a small matter." The goddess from the Roman celestial domain squeezed out a smile. "Philomena, I'm really sorry." It's okay. Why do you look a little pale?" Philomena, who was good at observing people's expressions, looked at the few divine sons and goddesses and said with a bad expression, "We met the Dragon King, so?" The few divine sons and goddesses from ancient Greece in the Garden of Eden said with slight embarrassment. They then looked at the divine sons and goddesses from the Roman celestial domain. Amy and the others had an unintentional collision with the Dragon King not long ago, and one of their arms was directly cut off, so they went back. A few divine sons and goddesses added, "Sigh, forget it. We admit defeat." When the young divine son learned that it was the Dragon King, he said without the slightest bit of temper, "Brother, if there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely cut off his head with my own hands." Yuwenhua, who was silent at the side, suddenly whispered to Yuwenhua. Yuwenhua heavily patted his shoulder. "Forget it. I'll ask your sister-in-law to find you another one in the future." What's wrong with Xiaoya?" Philomena, who was at the side, saw that Yuwenhua's expression was not good and asked curiously, "It's okay. Today is our wedding day. Don't mention anything else." Yuwenhua hugged Philomena's shoulder and whispered, "Just say it. I won't be affected by these things. Don't worry, I'm very happy today." Philomena held onto Yuwenhua's arm and said, "Originally, Xiaoya was prepared to get engaged to a girl. In the end, that girl's power was destroyed by the Dragon King." As Yuwenhua said this, his gaze turned slightly cold. The relationship between the two brothers was very deep. It could be seen from the time when Yuwenhua was beaten up and Yuwenhua directly challenged the Dragon Palace. Moreover, that challenge had also become a black spot in his life. It seems that this Dragon King is really annoying. Chapter 847. Openly targeted him. Philomena slightly raised her eyebrows when she heard the words of the divine sons and goddesses of the Western divine realm and Yuwenhua's words. He naturally knew the Dragon King very well. He was the most powerful force in the East and the master of the Dragon Palace. However, Philomena did not put the Dragon King in her eyes. She was the only daughter of the God King of the Nordic divine realm. There was only one God King in all the God realms at the moment, and that was the God King of the Scandinavian God realm, the King of all gods. This was the publicly recognized God King, and his strength was unfathomable. After the burst of spiritual energy, the Scandinavian God realm became even more powerful, and the Scandinavian God realm was faintly revered in the entire West. Before the burst of spiritual energy, the number of immortals and gods in the Scandinavian God realm had reached about 30, far surpassing the number of immortals and gods in the Dragon Palace by about 20. Now, she was even more confident that the Nordic region's strength was not something that the Dragon Palace could match. And her husband's Yuan clan was also a force that could not be underestimated. Now that they had a marriage alliance, they were definitely the most powerful force on Earth. From this wedding, it could be seen that all the Western region's divine domains had arrived. There were even leaders of the divine domains who had brought the gods to congratulate them. They are incomparably arrogant. They are relying on their own strength to not put anyone in their eyes. You said with an embarrassed expression. HMPH, they still think that they are invincible on Earth. If this Dragon King dares to provoke me, I will teach them a lesson. Philomena pouted and snorted coldly. Yuan smiled. This time, the Dragon King has come because of the invitation of our Yuan clan. This Dragon King can be considered as giving face and personally attending. Currently, the Scandinavian Divine Realm and the Yuan clan can be said to be the most powerful forces on Earth. This Dragon King naturally has to come and curry favor with them. That's right. I've heard of the Dragon King's reputation. He's very powerful, but he's still incomparable to the Scandinavian Divine Realm, not to mention the alliance between the two of you. This Dragon King also knows his own limits. He will only provoke those who are stronger than him, and he won't provoke you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come personally today. It's clearly a show of goodwill. Some of the divine sons and goddesses of the divine realm said with some flattery. Philomena raised her head slightly with a proud face. As the daughter of the divine king, even the leader of the divine realm had to treat her as an equal. This was the power of the Nordic divine realm. The auspicious time has come. Young master, young lady, it's time to pay respects. At this moment, a voice came from outside. It was time for the ceremony. The wedding continued in the Chinese style. Compared to the modern style, it was more complicated. At the wedding venue, everyone sat at the tables and watched the bride and groom walk out. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a brilliant light appeared in the sky. There were places in China where the wedding was at noon, and there were places where it was at night. The Yuan clan's tradition was that it was at night. However, even at night, the entire wedding venue was decorated as if it was a white night. The sun had just set when multicolored rays of light appeared in the sky. This is too awesome. Using a fire attributed infant realm expert to release fireworks. The red flames in the center are even at the immortal god level. Moreover, they even found some experts who possess heaven and earth heavenly flames. What a big spending! As expected of the marriage alliance between the Yuan clan and the Northern European god domain. It's simply too powerful. There are quite a few people from the Northern European gods domain. There are 20 immortals here. Oh my god, this Northern European gods domain is really powerful. Their god king didn't come over, but the god queen did. When the bride and groom walked out, the flames released by the fire attribute experts soared into the sky. The surrounding people discussed in whispers. It's simply too beautiful. Xiao Yu looked at the fireworks in the sky and the beautiful scenes around her with an infatuated look. The wedding scene this time was indeed rather grand. Wang Xian was watching from the side with a smile on his face. There were some people looking over from time to time, but they quickly shifted their gazes over. Heaven and earth, parents. One by one, the process was completed in half an hour. After the process was completed, it was time for dinner. The bride and groom would come out to toast. Ling Tian and brother, have you learned anything? When you organize a wedding and help me organize a wedding, don't be too shabby. On the table, Xiao Yu, Wang Xian, Ling Xiao, and the rest were sitting at the same table. They were all smiling as they spoke to them. All right. I will definitely let you get married in a glorious manner in the future. Wang Xian smiled as he spoke to Xiao Yu. If I don't get married, brother, you can build me a big house in the Dragon Palace. In the future, I can bring Ling Tian to live in the Dragon Palace. Xiao Yu giggled as she spoke. All right. Wang Xian smiled as he nodded. You can live wherever you want in the future. The bride and groom are here to toast to our family and friends. At this moment, a voice came from the side. There were about 50 tables present. Among them, there were 2 to 3 immortal level powerhouses at each table. There were no less than 150 immortal-level powerhouses present. According to the rules, the bride and groom came over to give a toast one table at a time. This was a form of wedding etiquette. Thank you for chasing away the sect leader of the Origin Immortal sect. Thank you so much. Haha, congratulations. Congratulations on marrying such a beautiful wife. Come, let me toast to all of you. A polite voice came from the table next to them. Ling Xiao and the others from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect looked over and immediately filled their wine cups. Wang Xian's gaze swept across them. The bride and groom were toasting one by one. Beside them was a friend of the bride, Yu Wenhua. Yu Wenyue was also pouring wine beside them. They're here, Ling Xiao whispered. The Yellow Heaven Immortal sect was not powerful and could not be compared to the Yuan clan, much less the Big Dipper divine territory. Therefore, he attached great importance to them. Uncles and uncles, thank you for attending our nephew's wedding. Yu Wenhua walked over and said to them with a smile on his face. Ling Xiao and the rest immediately stood up with smiles on their faces. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Wang Xian also stood up. At the very least, he had to be polite. You are the Dragon King. At this moment, a clear and cold voice was heard. Wang Xian turned around and saw the bride sizing him up coldly. He could see some hostility in her eyes. Yes. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he nodded his head faintly. Oh, I've long heard that the Dragon King is extremely arrogant. I hope that you will give me some face when you meet people from the Western Divine Realm in the future. The corner of Philomena's mouth also curled up slightly as she said faintly. Hee, it's not about giving face. It's about fighting for it. It's about strength. Wang Xian said faintly. Hee, that's true. Therefore, I don't need to give you any face at all. Philomena nodded with a smile on her face. She turned to Yu Wenhua and said, Let's go. Let's go to the next table. Yu Wenhua was slightly taken aback. However, he quickly smiled and said, Yes, madam. Yu Wenhua revealed a mocking smile on her face. Chapter 848. A Toast to the Yellow Earth and a Toast to Death. The smile on Ling Xiao's face froze, and his expression changed drastically. He had never thought that a bride would treat a guest like this. And the person she treated was actually the Dragon King. This was a blatant humiliation. No matter what, a guest was a guest. You had to at least be polite. Even if there was enmity between the two parties, you couldn't show it on this occasion. This was under the gaze of more than 100 immortals and under the gaze of all the powers on Earth. This was simply a slap in the face. The surrounding people who were paying attention to this place were also stunned and revealed expressions of shock. This was especially so for the people from the Huaxia Immortal sect. Their faces revealed expressions of shock. Peng, what do you mean? Do you know how to be polite? Do you have any upbringing? When Xiaoyu saw this scene, an angry expression immediately appeared on her face. She heavily placed the wine glass on the table, making a loud noise. This time, everyone at the wedding banquet was attracted by the commotion. What's going on? What happened? All the immortals, gods, and experts who hadn't noticed the situation just now looked at this scene in shock. It seems that Princess Philomena directly ignored the Dragon King when she was toasting. No way. What's going on? How could she not give face to the Dragon King? Could it be that the Nordic celestial realm wants to kill the Dragon King's spirit? I just heard that the Dragon King cut off the arms of 2 divine sons and daughters and a group of celestial realm disciples a few days ago. She's not giving face to the Dragon King? This is a blatant slap in the face. Some of the immortal gods from the Huaxia immortal sects were shocked when they saw this scene. The immortal gods' disciples, who had yet to arrive, widened their eyes in shock. They were filled with disbelief. He's not giving the Dragon King any face? Haha, good. Princess Philomena is not giving the Dragon King any face. He's embarrassing himself. Haha, this is so satisfying. This is interesting. Isn't your Dragon King arrogant? You still dare to be arrogant in front of our Princess Philomena? HMPH, now the Dragon King has lost a lot of face. He came to attend the wedding, but the bride didn't give him face at all. Haha, this is great. The western domain of gods and divine sons and daughters watched this scene with smiles on their faces. Especially the gods from the Garden of Eden, ancient Greece, and Rome. They all looked at this scene with smiles on their faces. Your Dragon King is extremely arrogant, yet you still dare to be arrogant in front of the daughter of the God King. Is that the Dragon King's sister? HMPH, you actually dare to say that Princess Philomena has no upbringing. You're really courting death. Now that the Yuan clan and the Scandinavian gods' domain are connected by marriage, they have become the most powerful force on Earth in a single leap. This Dragon King's sister is still spouting nonsense like an idiot. She really thinks that her brother is invincible. When some people heard Little Feather's words, their faces revealed mocking expressions. Sitting in the center, the gods of the Scandinavian god realm saw this scene and smiled without saying a word. With the God King's love for this princess, so what if he didn't give the Dragon King face? They didn't take the Dragon Palace seriously at all. In the entire world, they didn't take it seriously at all. The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan and the surrounding immortals frowned slightly, their faces slightly unsightly. If Philomena won't give face to the Dragon King, then so be it. The Dragon King killed my daughter-in-law. Are we afraid of them? At this moment, a middle-aged man among the immortals of the Yuan clan said coldly. The surrounding immortals of the Yuan clan heard the middle-aged man's words and fell silent. Fairy Hua was the daughter-in-law of this middle-aged immortal god, but she was killed by a disciple of the Dragon Palace. Now that his eldest son had married the daughter of the godly king, the middle-aged man's strength had also reached that of a superior immortal, so his position in the Yuan clan was very high. Moreover, it was Philomena's action this time, so they couldn't stop her. Now, they weren't afraid of the Dragon King anymore. If they didn't give him face, they wouldn't give him face. Shut up. Yuanhua heard Xiao Yu's words and stared at her coldly. What's wrong, Yuanhua? Do you still think I'm afraid of you? Xiao Yu saw Yuanhua staring at him coldly, and her aura was instantly released. A strong pressure of a mid-level immortal rushed towards Yuanhua. Wang Xian waved his hand and dispersed Xiao Yu's aura. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes as he raised his wine glass indifferently. Oh, this is... Everyone was slightly shocked. When they saw Wang Xian raising his wine glass, they were stunned. Haha, this Dragon King is cowardly. He doesn't dare to be arrogant anymore? An immortal from the Western Celestial Domain laughed out loud. His face was filled with ridicule. It seems that even the Dragon King has no choice but to bow his head. The Northern European Celestial Domain and the Yuan clan are too powerful. They are not something the Dragon Palace can contend against. Yeah, I didn't expect the Dragon King to admit defeat. It's really rare. This time, the Northern European God Realm really killed the Dragon King's spirit. I have no choice but to bow my head. The alliance of the two forces is invincible on Earth. The immortals and gods of Huaxia immortal sect sighed slightly when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that the Dragon King would actually admit defeat one day. He drank the wine himself when the other party didn't give him any face. However, it was also true. The Dragon King's participation in this wedding represented his goodwill towards the Yuan clan and the Nordic Divine Territory. However, the effect was somewhat counterproductive. Hee. Philomena raised her head slightly when she saw Wang Xian raising his wine glass. A hint of an arrogant sneer appeared on her face. Yuanhua was stunned for a moment before a faint smile appeared on his face. The Dragon King had also given in front of them. Pa. However, just when everyone thought that the Dragon King would drink the wine, Wang Xian slowly poured the wine cup over. The wine slowly dripped onto the ground. The wine dripped onto the array formation and made a clicking sound. All of them fell to the ground. Everyone was stunned before a look of shock appeared on their faces. Dragon King, how could he pour wine on the ground? An immortal god looked shocked and stammered. Pour wine on the ground. This was a toast to the dead. This was a toast to the dead. The Dragon King actually poured wine on the ground in front of them during their wedding. This was simply. The wine falling to the ground was not only the custom of the Easterners, the West also knew what this meant. In an instant, many people stood up with embarrassed expressions on their faces. In particular, all the immortals and gods of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan had angry expressions on their faces. The Dragon King poured the wine on the ground. What did this mean? Was he going to kill them? In an instant, the atmosphere at the wedding banquet turned solemn. Philomena and Yuwenhua's faces turned gloomy immediately. They stared at Wang Xian coldly. Chapter 849, Funeral 1. On the wedding day, he poured wine on the ground in front of the bride and groom. If the bride and groom left without a toast, then the act of pouring wine on the ground was more than an insult. It was a naked humiliation in front of the immortals and gods of all the major forces on earth. And there was a murderous intent in it. One toast to the yellow earth, one toast to death. This was the wine of death. Yuwenhua and Philomena's faces were extremely gloomy. The Dragon King had done such a humiliating thing during their joyous wedding. It was simply an insult to them. Dragon King, this is too much. When the supreme elder of the Yuan clan saw this scene, his face was unusually embarrassed. He moved and instantly appeared beside Yuwenhua and Philomena. His face was gloomy as he swept his gaze across the wine on the ground and stared at Wang Xian. Dragon King, are you looking for? Philomena's expression was slightly malevolent. She was the daughter of the celestial king of the northern European divine realm. Today was her wedding day, and under the gaze of everyone, she was actually humiliated in such a manner. This was not only an insult to her, but also to the entire northern European divine realm. In the future, when she recalled that such a thing had happened during her wedding, it would definitely be a very uncomfortable thing. It was as if a fish bone was stuck in his throat. Buzz. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan waved his hand and blocked what Philomena was about to say. He stared at the Dragon King with a cold expression. Didn't you invite me here because of your attitude? The son and daughter-in-law of the Yuan clan are so uneducated. Did you go overboard with what happened just now? Wang Xian stared coldly at the supreme elder of the Yuan clan. His eyes were filled with coldness as well. Give me an explanation, or else. Hiss. Everyone around inhaled a breath of cold air when they saw the Dragon King speaking in such a domineering manner. They stared at the Dragon King's expression. They could see the thick, murderous intent in his eyes. He did not conceal it at all. Everyone knew that the Dragon King was furious. The Dragon King did not care about the powers of the Nordic divine realm at all. He also did not care about the strength of the Yuan clan. Today, he was invited to participate in this wedding. Others had given him gifts, but he was humiliated in the end. Everyone would be angry. However, they dared not say anything in the face of a powerful force. However, the Dragon King did not tolerate it at all this time. Although the Nordic divine realm was very strong, the Dragon King still had the qualifications. The expression of the Yuan clan's Grand Elder changed drastically. Everyone had witnessed this matter. It was their fault. He took a deep breath. But Dragon King, you can't go too far. This matter is the fault of their two children. However, today is their wedding after all. Let's take a step back. Give you an explanation? Dragon King, I'm warning you. If you don't give our Scandinavian divine realm an explanation today, you won't have the chance to explain in the future. Just as the supreme elder of the Yuan clan finished his sentence, a cold and arrogant figure was heard. More than 20 people, more than 20 of the gods of the Nordic celestial domain, came to Philomena's side in an instant. They stared at Wang Xian coldly. The other experts of the Western celestial domain moved and followed closely behind. In an instant, 40 to 50 Western gods stared at Wang Xian coldly. When the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan saw them speaking, he frowned slightly. To do such a thing at my son's wedding, the Dragon King really doesn't put us in his eyes. The middle-aged immortal god from the Yuan clan also stared at Wang Xian coldly. Haha, are you threatening me? Wang Xian looked at them and laughed maniacally. So what if I'm threatening you? Dragon King, do you really think that I'm afraid of you? So what if I don't give you face? Philomena stared at Wang Xian with a gloomy face. A cold expression appeared on her face. Since that's the case, let's turn the wedding into a funeral. Wang Xian slowly retracted his smile and stared at Philomena. A red glow flashed in his eyes. Wang Xian's words shocked everyone once again. However, at this moment, everyone saw a flame shoot out from the Dragon King's eyes. Caught off guard, no one expected the Dragon King to dare to attack directly in front of 40 to 50 immortals. In an instant, everyone was shocked. A wedding turned into a funeral? You're courting death. Philomena and Yuanhua did not expect Wang Xian to attack so suddenly. Her expression changed drastically, and she quickly stretched out her arm. A bracelet on her arm emitted a blue shield of light. Buzz. However, the moment the flame landed on the shield of light dissipated and the flame landed on Philomena's body. A flame that was not very thick landed on her body. At this moment, her expression changed drastically. A look of horror appeared on her face. The flame landed on her body and started burning rapidly. The speed of the flame burning was very fast. Dense would attribute energy surged from her body in an attempt to extinguish it. However, the flame was never-ending. Never-ending sight. This was one of the 8 divine abilities that Wang Xian obtained after attaining the first transformation of the divine dragon. The divine ability originated from the never-ending wood on the ancestral tree. Never-ending sight, pupil technique. When struck by the never-ending wood, the flame was never-ending and never-ending. Until death. Dragon King, you? The supreme elder of the Yuan clan revealed an embarrassed expression. He immediately waved his hand to extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. You're courting death. How dare you harm our princess? The gods of the Nordic celestial domain were filled with killing intent when they saw Wang Xian attack directly. A sledgehammer and a knight's sword instantly appeared in the hands of the 2 old men standing in front of them. Hee, after tomorrow, all of you will be toasting in my direction as well. Haha. Wang Xian laughed as he looked at the 2 superior immortals who were attacking him. The red glow in his eyes flashed once again as 2 rays of light landed on their bodies. The 2 of them used the sledgehammer and knight's sword to block the attack. However, their weapons extended from their weapons to their bodies without end. 2 blood-curdling screams rang out. Not good. The flames can't be extinguished. When the 2 high-level immortals attacked, a group of immortals hurriedly released all sorts of energy in an attempt to extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. However, when all sorts of water and earth elemental energy landed on her body, the flames were only slightly suppressed, but it was completely useless. They couldn't be extinguished, not even if a high god attacked. Extinguish them. Extinguish the flames. Philomena's face was filled with terror as she watched her body burn black. She let out a loud scream. Not good. The thunder god and the earth god are also being burned by the flames. When the other gods of the Nordic deity domain and the Yuan clan saw the thunder god and the earth god being burned by the flames, their faces filled with pain as they slapped the flames, their expressions changing dramatically. The 2 high gods were also burned by the flames. Furthermore, they were indestructible. In an instant, the group of gods stared at Wang Xian with fear and vigilance. The rest of them began to rescue him. Chapter 850, Funeral 2. Save me, save me. Everything happened in just 3 seconds. The flames burned brighter and brighter. Half of Philomena's body was charred black. A terrified expression appeared on her face as she screamed out loud. The high god of the Nordic region, the god of thunder, and the god of the earth were flapping the flames on their bodies with terrified expressions. The 20 immortals stared at Wang Xian vigilantly. In the short exchange of blows, the the Dragon King only released 3 flames. In the end, Philomena's entire body was burned, and the 2 high god clones were covered by the flames. The flames are on my body. At this moment, Yuanhua's terrified voice rang out. When he was flapping Philomena's flames, some of the flames were on his body, and his arms were burning. No matter what, the flames would never be extinguished. Even if a superior immortal god made a move, it was still useless. What happened at this moment actually made all the human immortals and gods around swallow a mouthful of saliva. The people from the Yuan clan and the Nordic divine territory stared at Wang Xian in horror. No one dared to attack again. Divine ability. This is a divine ability. A surprised voice came from the Xian Yuan clan's supreme elder. He stared with wide eyes at the 4 immortals who had been burned by the flames, and his expression changed drastically. Divine ability. The mortals cultivated battle techniques. If they wanted to increase their strength again, there was only one way, which was to condense the battle technique into a divine ability. All the immortals knew this, but it was extremely difficult to condense a divine ability, and many high-level immortals were unable to find a way. The flame breath is indestructible. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan had an extremely unsightly expression as he shouted loudly. He gritted his teeth and waved the ancient fan in his hand, directly cutting off Yuanhua's arm. The arm fell to the ground, and the flames continued to burn. Save me! Save me! Philomena was completely flustered. Her face was extremely pale, and more than half of her body had been burned. If not for the dense water energy surrounding her to suppress the flames, she would probably have died. Beside her, the 2 high gods of the Nordic domain were rolling on the ground, their eyes filled with fear. Dragon King, extinguish the flames on Philomena's body. Are you really going to fall into a situation where you will fight to the death with our Yuan clan and the Nordic domain? Cold sweat appeared on the forehead of the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan. He growled at Wang Xian in a low voice with an embarrassed expression. The wedding turned into a funeral. It's pretty good. Wang Xian looked at this scene indifferently with a smile on his face. This was the first time he had unleashed the endless sight. He was a little dissatisfied with the effect. The flames unleashed by an extraordinary level, one could not extinguish it in an instant. This endless sight felt a little weak. However, the ability of not being able to see clearly and not being able to see clearly was fully displayed. It was indestructible. Dragon King, if you dare to kill Princess Philomena and the god of Thunder Mountain and Earth in our divine territory, our God King will not let you off. A god from the Nordic divine territory stared at Wang Xian and shouted loudly with his eyes that were about to crack. Do you know that I hate threats the most? Wang Xian turned his head to look at the god and said with a twinkle in his eyes. The middle-aged god's expression changed drastically. He was afraid that a flame would shoot out from Wang Xian's eyes and burn him directly. Dragon King, if you can stop now, our Yuan clan would like to apologize to you. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan stared at Wang Xian with a face full of fear and said with an embarrassed expression, no one had expected that the Dragon King would be so powerful. Just the 2 flames shot out from his eyes could destroy 2 high gods. Who would dare to go up against such terrifying flames? Even if this was the territory of the Yuan clan, even if there were more than 20 gods in the Nordic divine territory, no one dared to go up. It was too terrifying. One person smiled as he looked at the 40 to 50 gods. Yet, the other party did not dare to attack. Instead, he was apologizing respectfully. It was so terrifying. The eyes of the surrounding immortals, who had secretly thought that the Dragon King would admit defeat, were filled with shock. Even the Western gods looked at this scene with embarrassed expressions, especially the mad god of the Garden of Eden's divine realm and the young divine son and goddess of the Roman divine realm. They had gloated and even looked excited. Their expressions had completely disappeared. Apologize? Do I need an apology from the Yuan clan? It's too late. Wang Xian watched the scene indifferently. There was no expression on his face. When the supreme elder of the Yuan clan heard Wang Xian's rejection, His face was extremely gloomy. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Dragon King, what do you have to do to extinguish the flames? Anyone who offends our Dragon King will die. Wang Xian did not speak. Ao Jian, who was at the side, spoke coldly like a sharp sword that had been unsheathed. After he finished speaking, the faces of all the immortals and deities of the Yuan clan and the Nordic celestial domain changed drastically. No, no, I beg you, Dragon King. It's my fault. Please let me go. Dressed in a bride's gift, the extremely beautiful Philomena revealed a look of despair on her face. She was in immense pain and most of her body was burnt black. She looked extremely pathetic. She was no longer as beautiful and prideful as before, nor did she have the disdain and ridicule in front of Wang Xian. She knelt on the ground. The immortals and gods around her came to her rescue, but none of them dared to go forward. Yu Wenhua's arm was covered in flames. He could only cut off his own arm. The two high gods were covered in flames and were screaming in agony. I came to attend your wedding, but you didn't give me any face. You even said that you have the ability and qualifications. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability and qualifications. Let's go, Wang Xian said indifferently and turned around to walk out. However, when he saw a glass of wine on the table, he paused. The last toast is to the yellow earth and death. This toast is to all of you. Wang Xian picked up the wine glass and threw it behind him gently. The wine glass formed a line and landed in front of Philomena and the two high gods. Cheers to all of you. Boom. The Yuan clan and the gods from the Nordic celestial domain revealed furious expressions. A terrifying aura shot up into the sky. The aura of the 40 to 50 gods caused the entire world to change drastically. Even the movement techniques under their feet were slowly cracking. However, Wang Xian did not bother with them. He slowly paced and flew into the distance at an average speed. Xiao Yu, Feng Lingtian, Ling Xiao, and the rest followed closely behind. They left in a carefree manner. From the beginning to the end, the immortals from the Yuan clan and the Nordic celestial domain did not dare to make a move. The people from the Western celestial domain did not dare to make a move either. Two flames had killed two high gods. Who would still dare to make a move? No, I was wrong. Please, let me go. Give me a chance. Philomena's screams continued to ring out, causing the Yuan clan and the gods of the Scandinavian gods domain to have extremely unsightly expressions. No matter what method they used, they could not extinguish the wisps of flames that were not very lush. They could only watch as Philomena was burned to ashes. They watched as the two gods stopped screaming and lay there motionless. This was truly a wedding turning into a funeral. Chapter 851, Funeral 3. No. The sound of Yuan Hua wailing could be heard from the wedding venue. Everyone from the Yuan clan trembled slightly. Their faces were filled with humiliation and anger. The gods of the Northern European god domain had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. The princess of their god domain had been directly killed. She had been burned to death in front of them. However, they had not been able to do anything about it. They didn't even have the chance to take revenge. Around them, the immortal sects from the east and the gods from the west watched this scene with complicated expressions on their faces. It was the most eye-catching wedding on earth. However, today, it had turned into this scene. Just as the Dragon King had said, the wedding had turned into a funeral. Everyone from the Yuan clan, we are sorry for your loss. We will leave first. The members of the Xinyuan clan cupped their hands and left immediately. The members of the other immortal sects also left immediately. On the mountain peaks around the wedding, in Xinyuan City, the lights were still bright. It was an ordinary wedding. However, the people outside and in the city didn't know that this wedding had turned into a funeral. Who would have thought that this wedding of the century would actually turn out like this? The Dragon King actually dared to directly kill the daughter of the Scandinavian deity king, killing two high gods. In the future, The two powers will probably fight to the death. Who would have thought that the Dragon King would actually be so terrifying? A high god was easily killed in front of him. This is too terrifying. While the others are improving, the Dragon King is also improving at a terrifying rate. Some of the immortal gods who had left were sighing as they conversed. The strength that the Dragon King had displayed today had truly shocked everyone. The 40 to 50 immortal gods of the Yuan clan's Nordic region did not dare to make a move. They watched as the Dragon King left and watched as the princess of the Nordic region was burned to death. However, one could imagine that the Nordic region and the Dragon Palace had already become archenemies. What would happen if the two most powerful forces of the East and West clashed? It's also that Philomena is courting death. After all, the Dragon King is also the most powerful force of the East. He came to your wedding personally and gave you a congratulatory gift. In the end, you didn't give the Dragon King any face and humiliated the Dragon King in front of so many people. Aren't you courting death? Maybe he thinks that he has a father who is a godly king, so he dares to look down on everyone. He is indeed rude. He didn't give any face to the guests at his own wedding. No wonder the Dragon King directly showed killing intent and killed him on the spot. If he doesn't seek death, he won't die. Do you really think that a top-tier powerhouse, the master of a powerful force, would let a rich second-generation woman like you humiliate him? You are courting death. Some people were shocked by the Dragon King's faction, but there were still people who were disdainful of Philomena's actions. They thought that they had a powerful background, but they actually dared to disrespect others. Now that they had met the Dragon King, the result was that they were killed. Moreover, they died very miserably. The Yuan clan's people also thought that they had a marriage alliance with the Scandinavian divine realm, so they could disregard the Dragon King. In the end, this was the fate of a group of people seeking death. Not long after the lively and festive Shenyuan city began to boil, the news of Philomena's death spread, and the entire city was shocked. Very quickly, this matter spread to the Jianghu website. Today's Jianghu website, the posts were all about the immortal sex congratulations on the marriage between Yuan clan's Yuan Hua and the Scandinavian god's domain's Philomena, as well as the discussions of the immortal sex experts on this wedding. When the news of Philomena's death spread to Jianghu website, it shocked the entire internet. When Philomena toasted, she did not give face to the Dragon King in front of everyone. The Yuan clan did not make any apologies, and the Dragon King killed her on the spot. When this news came out, the entire Jianghu was shocked. The Dragon King is awesome. Damn it, this Philomena is really courting death. The Dragon King personally went to attend her wedding and gave her a congratulatory gift, but she actually did not give face to the Dragon King. Well done. The best death-courting expert of the year, the daughter of the Scandinavian god realm's god king, Philomena. Well done. Treating a guest like this, there is nothing wrong with the Dragon King killing her. This Yuan clan is too arrogant. They think that they cannot give face to the Dragon King just because they are in the Scandinavian god realm. Now that's great. This is really interesting. Haha, this is really interesting. The Yuan clan invited the Dragon King to attend the wedding, but the bride insulted him directly. The Yuan clan did not react at all. Well done. The disciples of the immortal sects on the Jianghu website all replied in unison. They all said that Philomena was courting death and the Yuan clan was too arrogant. That was why, if not for all of this, the Dragon King would not have made a move. In an instant, the originally lively Jianghu website became even more lively and even continued until the wee hours of the morning. Boom, boom. However, at the wee hours of the morning, an earth-shattering sound came from the direction of the Yuan clan. The earth seemed to be trembling. Dragon King, I, the king of Northern Europe, the king of all gods, Okuden, will definitely exterminate you in 3 days. All members of the Dragon Palace will not be spared. Even if the heavens and the earth enter, you will not be able to escape this calamity. An angry roar resounded throughout the east. The voice shook the sky. All the people who had fallen asleep were awakened and listened to the voice with shock on their faces. King of Northern Europe, King of all gods, King of God Okuden. the strongest person in the West and the most powerful god in the West. How strong could an existence that could be recognized as the strongest by everyone be? Everyone had shocked expressions on their faces. No one expected that this godly monarch would rush over so quickly. Yuan clan, you bunch of damn fellows. At this moment, in the Yuan clan's position, a sun-like disk was suspended in the dark night sky 10,000 meters in the sky, causing the entire area to be lit up. An elder sat on a huge divine seat, and two black crows that were 3 meters in size stood on the edge of the divine seat. There was a golden disk that was 1 meter long above the old man's head. The disk was emitting a white light. For huge Pegasus with wings pulled the throne. Each Pegasus was emitting a dazzling light. They were at the level of immortals and gods. The old man was also emitting a white light. He had endless majesty. The king of all gods was worthy of his name. God King Ocuting, please calm down. Yuan. Shut up. In the sky, the Yuan clan's supreme elder and a group of Yuan clan immortals greeted the arrival of the divine king in fear and trepidation. Behind the divine king stood a group of gods exuding a terrifying aura. All of them were clad in battle armor and were filled with dignity. The group of about 5,000 people looked like a powerful battle team that had come from ancient times. The Yuan clan's supreme elder bent down and was about to finish his sentence when divine King Okyuden extended a finger. A white beam of light instantly shot towards him. The Yuan clan's Grand Supreme Elder's expression was horrified as he hurriedly blocked it. Pung! However, a terrifying force landed on his body, causing him to spit out blood. Instantly, he was heavily injured as he fell towards the ground. The might of a divine king shook the world. Chapter 852, Funeral 4. Hiss. The location of the Yuan clan was not very far from Xinyuan City. At night, when a sun-like object rose, when that earth-shaking sound rang out, everyone in Xinyuan Ancient City woke up. Many immortal gods and disciples of the immortal sects who had not left because the sky was already dark tonight immediately flew out of the room when they heard this sound and looked towards the location of the sound. When they flew out, they saw a shocking scene. The Yuan clan's strongest expert, the Yuan clan's supreme elder, was actually knocked down from the void by the finger of the elder who was sitting on the divine throne and emitting divine light. He did not have the slightest ability to resist. The Yuan clan's supreme elder, who was currently the strongest expert in the East, fell heavily into the distance. The power of a single finger. Just the power of a single finger. Everyone's faces were filled with shock as they watched this scene. The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan had actually been defeated with a single finger. In fact, they felt that if the deity king hadn't held back, he would have been killed. This made them think of the day when the Dragon King's eyes had shot out 2 flames, and in the end, he had killed 2 high gods. How terrifying. He knocked down the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan with a single finger. Who is stronger, the Dragon King or him? This is a true god. His divine might is vast and mighty, and his divine light shines through the heavens and earth. Those gods of the Western divine realm are simply too insignificant compared to this old man. Divine King. Is this how terrifying a divine king is? As expected of the king of gods, the most powerful expert of the West. Seeing it with their own eyes, everyone felt their insignificance. This godly king was too powerful. Godly king versus Dragon King. Dragon King has finally met his true enemy. Everyone sighed in their hearts. After the Dragon King's performance today, they thought that the Dragon King was the strongest existence. However, compared to the godly king, it was hard to say who was stronger. The Dragon King has killed my Yuan clan's daughter-in-law. Today, my Yuan clan swears that we will definitely destroy the Dragon King. Otherwise, my Yuan clan will be destroyed. After about half an hour of silence in the night, another roar sounded from the sky and spread throughout China. The 2 voices represented the complete alliance between the Yuan clan and the Nordic divine realm. They were determined to completely destroy the Dragon King. This news caused the silent night to boil. It became a sleepless night. Analyzing the Dragon King's forces, before the spiritual energy recovers, the Dragon Palace has 18 immortal gods, a group of infant realm and half-step immortal god powerhouses. According to their overall strength, the Dragon Palace has at least 30 immortal gods. 30 might be a little less. It should be between 40 to 50. 50 is the most. As for the Yuan clan and the Northern European Divine Realm, the Yuan clan has 25 immortals, and the Northern European Divine Realm has at least 60 immortals. This time, the Divine King Okuden led all the experts of the Divine Realm out. When the two sides join forces, there are no less than 85 immortal god experts. This is a huge crisis for the Dragon King. Although the Dragon King is very strong, the Divine King is not weak either. He defeated the Yuan clan's supreme elder with one finger. His strength is definitely not lower than the Dragon King. The Divine King under his banner is stronger. This is really a huge crisis for the Dragon King. Last time, the Dragon King mobilized the Dragon Palace's forces to destroy the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. Will there be other forces this time? It's obviously the alliance between the Nordic Divine Realm's Divine King and the Yuan clan that is stronger. After all, it's the alliance of two major forces. There's also the Divine King, a terrifying expert. The Dragon King is doomed. Late at night, the entire Jianghu internet was bustling with activity. Everyone was talking about the Yuan clan and the Norse Celestial Realm's declaration of war against the Dragon King. The daughter of the Divine King was killed at the wedding. The two major forces would not let the Dragon King off. This time, it was another war of the century. Even after this war, it would decide the division of the forces on Earth. More people were optimistic about the forces of the Divine King and the Yuan clan. Now, almost everyone was a warrior. In the past, many ordinary people had only heard of the Dragon King's deeds and had never seen him in person. However, the King of Gods was different. Ever since the spiritual energy was released, the King of all gods had been well known throughout the entire earth. He was known as a true god. When the sky lit up, Wang Xian stretched lazily from his room on the floating island and came to the living room. "Brother, did you hear the voice yesterday?" Xiao Yu and Feng Lingtian were sitting in the living room. Ling Xiao did not leave immediately either. The incident yesterday had a huge impact on them. Killing the daughter of the godly monarch on the spot and making an enemy out of the strongest alliance on earth made him a little apprehensive and worried. Now, the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect and the Dragon Palace could be considered as in-laws. I heard it. How could I not hear it? Wang Xian walked to the table nonchalantly. Xiao Yu immediately ran to the kitchen to bring some breakfast over. "Brother, they are too arrogant. They even wanted to destroy you. HMPH, they are courting death." Xiao Yu said angrily. She had been angry for a long time about what happened to Philomena the day before. They should be holding a funeral now. Hee, when they are done with the coffin, we will go over and cover it for them. Wang Xian smiled gently. Since the other party had already wanted to destroy him, Wang Xian would naturally not sit still. He liked to take the initiative to attack. A wedding turned into a funeral. A funeral required a coffin. If they wanted to kill him 3 days later, he would go ahead and place them in the coffin. Perfect. In just a few days, they would go from the joy of life to great sorrow and finally walk into the grave. It was perfect. Dragon King, are you taking the initiative to attack? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat when he heard his words. There are only 6 immortals in our Ling Xiao immortal sect who can attack. There's no need. Wang Xian waved his hand. My Dragon Palace can handle it. The Godly King is very powerful. The Northern European Divine Territory and the Yuan clan are also very powerful. Ling Xiao frowned and reminded him. Even though he saw how confident Wang Xian was, Ling Xiao was not sure that the Dragon Palace would be a match for the two powerful forces. Not only him, but everyone on Earth did not believe that the Dragon King would win. On the Jianghu website, everyone said that this would be the greatest crisis for the Dragon King and that it was very likely that he would fall. Don't worry. Wang Xian smiled faintly. Earlier on, He looked at the Jianghu website and saw the analysis thread. The strength of the Norse celestial domain and the Yuan clan's analysis was very similar. However, it was the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian smiled lightly. Currently, there were 280 immortal-level powerhouses in the Dragon Palace. Just a small number of 80 plus a group of Draconids would be enough to deal with the two major forces. As for the Godly King, I wonder if he has reached the Transcendence Realm. It would be interesting if he has reached it. If he hasn't, then, hee. As for the information about the Godly King versus the Dragon King on the Jianghu website, the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He didn't know if he had the qualifications. Chapter 853, Dragon King vs. Godly King 1. The wedding that shocked the entire world ended in a way that shocked everyone. Soon after, the wedding turned into a funeral. The death of the Godly King's daughter, even if it was to be buried in the Nordic divine realm. The entire Yuan clan was still in silence. The festive red color was completely removed and replaced with white. Although it was said that turning from a joyous event to a loss would cause all the immortal sect experts in the Jianghu to laugh at them, it was still better to die. Moreover, the one who died was the daughter of the Scandinavian god king. How could the Yuan clan still dare to care about their reputation? Now, they only hoped that the Scandinavian god king would not vent his anger on them and take revenge on the Dragon King. No matter what, all of this was because of the Dragon King. The 5,000 experts of the Nordic divine realm are all gathered in the Yuan clan. In 2 days, they will take the Dragon King's head to pay tribute to the death of the Nordic princess. I heard that the Yuan clan used level 13 materials to build a coffin for Philomena. How extravagant! No one knows the exact location of the Dragon Palace. If the Dragon King is hiding, the Nordic divine realm might not be able to find him. The Dragon King is currently said to be on the floating island in the river city Bohai Sea. I wonder how the Dragon King will deal with him. The Yuan clan has mobilized all their forces to find the Dragon Palace's address. They are preparing to attack the Dragon Palace and destroy all the members of the Dragon Palace. Time slowly passed. The entire Jianghu was in an uproar. They were paying close attention to every piece of information about the Dragon King and the Yuan clan. Soon after, the next day, a shocking piece of news broke out in the Yuan clan. There are a total of 50 immortal gods in the Nordic divine realm and 28 immortal gods in the Yuan clan. When this news came out, everyone was dumbfounded. 50 immortal gods, and there were actually 50 immortal gods in the Nordic divine realm. This terrifying power was simply invincible in the world. 50 immortals and 28 from the Yuan clan made a total of 78. How is the Dragon King going to deal with such a terrifying power? The Godly King has announced our power. If the Dragon King finds out that we are hiding, it will be troublesome. In the Yuan clan, the Grand Elder sat below the Godly King. He frowned and said respectfully, "Even if our announced strength is much less than what we actually have, our power can still be said to be invincible on Earth." Invincible? That's hard to say. The elder sitting in the main seat touched a small crow on his arm with a cold expression on his face. "Elder Yuan, we can't underestimate this Dragon King. According to the information we received in the past 2 days, this Dragon Palace's strength is not weak. The number of immortals and deities it has will definitely not be less than 50. Divine King O'Curtain didn't answer him. A white-haired elder who was leaning on the crow's cane beside him said faintly, "A year ago, the Dragon Palace had 18 immortals before the recovery of spiritual energy began. The number of infant realm and half-step immortal realm experts had reached 70 to 80. This is just the strength that was revealed. If he still has hidden his strength, he might be even stronger. Moreover, according to the information we've received, the strength of the infant realm and half-step immortal realm experts in the Dragon Palace far exceeds those of the same level. A year's recovery of spiritual energy is enough for many infant realm experts to break through to immortal realm. The experts of the Dragon Palace also have a very high possibility." As the white-haired old man spoke, he touched the walking stick in his hand. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan revealed a thoughtful expression. The Dragon Palace didn't have any ordinary disciples. The weakest ones were all in the infant realm. During this 1-year period, the spiritual essence had recovered. If the infant realm experts had a great opportunity and had enough medicinal pills, they could also break through to the immortal realm. In addition, the Dragon Palace monopolized the medicinal pills in the entire Jianghu, so the resources were absolutely terrifying. That's right. Suddenly, he remembered that the Dragon Palace had once destroyed the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. With the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect strength back then, they were completely comparable to the Yuan clan. Moreover, the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect definitely had more resources than them in terms of spiritual herbs and medicinal pills. If the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal Sect still existed, they would have at least 30 immortal gods. Now that the resources were given to the Dragon Palace would be able to create at least 20 immortals. In addition to the previous ones and the monopolized medicinal pills, the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace might really reach 70 to 80. If the number of immortals in the Dragon Palace really reaches 70 to 80, I really can't believe it. The immortal gods of the Yuan clan suddenly sighed. If it weren't for the Nordic divine realm, they absolutely wouldn't dare to provoke the Dragon King. According to all the information in the past, there's a very big possibility. The white-haired elder's eyes sparkled as he spoke with wisdom. Hiss, if that's the case, even if we want to destroy the Dragon Palace, the possibility isn't very high. On the contrary, both sides will suffer heavy losses. The Yuan clan's supreme elder said with a solemn expression. If the Dragon King really has such a powerful force, according to his personality, what will he do? The white-haired elder continued to speak indifferently. If it's the Dragon King, will he? The Yuan clan's immortals and deities frowned slightly. Immediately after, they said, if it's the Dragon King, he will lead the immortals and deities of the Dragon Palace. Before we make a move, they will come to find us. This was the case with the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. That's right. It seems that you are not that stupid. The white-haired elder closed his eyes slightly. The immortals and gods of the Yuan clan looked somewhat embarrassed. Wise man, godly king, if the strength of the Dragon Palace is really so terrifying, we can't deal with them, can we? Reporting, Grand Elder, a group of experts suddenly broke in. Suddenly, at this moment, an elder of the Yuan clan rushed in with a panicked look and said in horror, "What? Did the Dragon King bring people here?" The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan stood up abruptly with a shocked look on his face. "Let them in." The godly king who was sitting at the front said, "Godly king, godly king, godly king." As soon as they finished speaking, a group of people walked toward the hall in the mountain peak. There were about 60 people in total. The leader on the left was a burly old man with a beard and a huge war hammer in his hand. The one on the right was an old man wearing a black robe, completely hiding himself in the robe. He wore a mask and only one eye was revealed. In the middle was an old man wearing a divine crown and holding a divine staff. Each of the old men exuded a terrifying dignity. At this moment, they bowed respectfully to the God King. 15 immortals in the Garden of Eden's divine territory, 20 immortals in the ancient Greek divine territory, 25 gods from the Rome. Serve the God King, kill the other worldlings, get rid of the villains, and avenge Princess Philomena. The 60 powerful gods called out respectfully, and their voices resounded throughout the hall. Chapter 854, Dragon King vs. Godly King 2. Here they come. Haha, good. This time, regardless of whether the Dragon Palace has 50 immortals or 100 immortals, they must die. After the Dragon Palace is destroyed, anyone on Earth who dares to resist us will all die. Godly King Okuden's eyes shone with a bright light as he slowly stood up. This time, I will let everyone on Earth know the consequences of offending me, Okuden. If you dare to kill my daughter, I will tear her into pieces and make everyone in the world despise him. Divine King, after this battle, everyone will have to submit to my Nordic divine realm. The white-bearded old man quickly stood up. In the future, you will not only be the king of all gods, but also the king of all immortals. Wise man, I hope that as you have analyzed, this Dragon King will have a decent strength and will be able to come over tomorrow. Otherwise, there will be no meaning at all. Divine King O'Curtain waved his hand and said indifferently, 80% confidence. The white-bearded old man said with confidence. Around them, the immortals of the Yuan clan sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with shock as they watched. As expected of the strongest northern European divine realm in the West, as expected of the godly monarch, the Yuan clan Grand Elder's face was filled with astonishment. His eyes flickered as he looked at the white-bearded elder. The white-bearded elder was called the Wise Man. He was the wise man of the northern European divine realm. He had always been the most important right-hand man of the auxiliary godly monarch. This wise man in front of him had assisted 3 generations of godly monarchs in total. His lifespan had already reached around 450 years old. This time, it was his intention to pass on the power of the Nordic divine realm and the Yuan clan. In fact, the power that was passed out had 10 immortal gods hidden in the Nordic divine realm. They had a total of 60 immortal gods. However, that was not all. Seeing the 60 immortal gods that came over again, he was amazed. This time, even if the Dragon King had 3 heads and 6 arms, he was doomed. Thinking of this, a cold expression appeared on his face. Prepare everything and wait for the arrival of the Dragon King. The white-bearded old man sat on the chair and flipped through the information in his hands. His face was filled with confidence. 78 immortals, over 4,000 experts in the infant and dance stages. This is a good opportunity for the Dragon Palace to train their soldiers. In Jiang City, Wang Xian stood at the top of the floating island villa. He smiled as he read the information sent over by the demonic Azure Dragon. Dragon King, Prime Minister Gue is bringing a group of civil officials from the Dragon Palace over. In the past, it was all talk on paper. This is a real drill. Ao Jian said to Wang Xian from the side. Wang Xian nodded. Good. It's rare to have an opponent. Use it well. Otherwise, it would be a waste. Wang Xian did not put the king of the Nordic celestial realm and the Yuan clan in his eyes. In his opinion, they were a good training ground for the Dragon Palace. From the beginning to the end, the Dragon Palace did not encounter any opponents. This time, they passed the test. 78 immortals and 4,000 to 5,000 infant stage powerhouses at the dance stage barely passed the test. Tomorrow morning, we don't need the Nordic celestial realm and the Yuan clan to look for us. Let's go look for them. The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he said confidently. It's the Dragon King. Ao Jin nodded respectfully. Wang Xian stood at the top of the villa with an indifferent expression as he looked ahead with a smile. However, he didn't know that Wang Xian's thoughts had already been predicted by others. Meanwhile, the Norse celestial domain and the Yuan clan were already waiting for his arrival. The next morning, today, was 3 days later. It was the Nordic Divine King's day of revenge for the Yuan clan. Today, the entire world, from the immortal sects to the warriors who had just cultivated for a year, was paying attention to this battle. The real battle of the century. Hello everyone. This is the Huaxia Warriors Live broadcast platform. We are currently in Jiang City. Everyone, please look into the distance. Look, that is the Dragon King's floating island. It is said that the Dragon King is currently on the floating island. We can connect to another streamer. He is currently in the Yuan clan. Today, we will be live broadcasting this battle. As time passed, the television stations of the past had also undergone changes. There were many more martial artists live broadcast platforms and teaching platforms. The Huaxia Martial Artists Live broadcast platform was the largest platform. Now, it was even more important to carry out a live broadcast of this battle that all humans were paying attention to. At this time, hundreds of millions of people had already gathered on the platform to watch. Besides those watching on the live broadcast platform, the real powerhouses, such as the Immortal God level, half-step immortal god level, and infant realm level, were all located not far away from Jiang City and the Yuan clan. They were ready to watch this terrifying battle with their own eyes. The power of this battle would far surpass the battle between the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, and Immortal Sect and the Dragon King. There's no movement on the Dragon King's floating island. We can also see that there's no movement on the Yuan clan's position. It's 8:30 in the morning, so there should be some movement soon. Everyone, wait patiently. Everyone, do you think that the Nordic Divine Realm and the Yuan clan will win this battle, or the Dragon King's Dragon Palace? At 8:30 in the morning, both the floating island and the Yuan clan were silent, like the calm before a storm. As soon as the streamer asked this question, a voting area appeared. In an instant, the number of votes reached over 1 million. Among them, 99% of them thought that the Norse Celestial Realm and the Yuan clan would win, and the Dragon King Dragon Palace would be destroyed. 88 immortals versus members of the Dragon Palace, the Dragon King versus the Godly King. The members of the Dragon Palace will probably be completely defeated. Unless the Dragon King defeats the Godly King, the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King will be destroyed. That's right. There's no movement on the floating island. Has the Dragon King already escaped? If he really escaped, it would completely prove that the Dragon King is not as good as the Godly King. In the void around Jiang City, the immortals from the immortal sects were hiding in the white clouds. They looked down and whispered. Similarly, there were many immortal gods from the Yuan clan hiding in the void around River City. There was no movement from either side. It seems that everyone thinks that the Nordic god's domain and the Yuan clan will win. I think so too. I'm afraid that they will really have to slay the dragon this time. 88 immortal gods. This is too terrifying. The live streamer flew in the sky on his flying sword as he spoke to the audience. Oh my God, what's going on? At this moment, the streamer suddenly widened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Oh my God, the power of the Dragon King. The power of the Dragon King. Boom, boom. While the streamer was in shock, terrifying creatures suddenly flew out from the bottom of the ocean below the floating island. Among the 9 flood dragons, there was a throne that the Dragon King was sitting on. At the back, there was a beautiful woman standing beside the Dragon King with a fan and a pair of wings behind her. On the other side, an old man with a turtle shell glanced around with a wise gaze. Finally, a group of creatures with a terrifying aura. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.